Chapter 568. Now that the first round of matches has concluded, there will be a 30-minute break. You may use this time to recover your strength, but you are not allowed to leave the area or consume medicine that speeds up your recovery. The announcer said to them. The contestants that won their match started to cultivate to recover as much energy as they can, but Yuan merely sat on the benches with Wang Ming sitting beside him. You're not going to cultivate? Wang Ming asked him. I don't really need to. Yuan said, feeling completely fine and overflowing with energy. You're really another breed, aren't you? Wang Ming shook his head with a bittersweet smile. There was another contestant that didn't bother to rest, and it was Li Jinxi, who barely exerted any strength to defeat her opponent, and she would silently stare in Yuan's direction. Noticing this, Yuan asked Wang Ming, she's staring at our direction. What do you think she wants from us? Wang Ming turned to look at Li Jinxi and chuckled, us? I think she only has you in her eyes at this moment. She's probably wondering if you'll be a challenge for her since she doesn't really have any rivals in the faction, and even the Grand Elders are no match for her. What? Even the Grand Elders cannot defeat her? Yuan was surprised to hear this. Li Jinxi may only be at the peak of Spirit Warrior, but her tremendous strength is on another level. In terms of experience and skills, the Grand Elders are definitely above her. However, in a fight, Li Jinxi's superior strength allows her to dominate everyone. But it's not like the Grand Elders cannot defeat her. If they fight 10 matches, Li Jinxi would probably win 6 to 7 of them. I see. Yuan nodded. I think she will be a worthy opponent for you, Yuan. You'll understand it once you stand on the same stage as her. Wang Ming chuckled. 30 minutes later, the announcer called the 4 contestants that won back onto the stage for another round of picking numbers. Yuan looked at his number after picking it. 2 inch if you say so. Yuan nodded. Chapter 569. Are you two ready? The announcer asked Yuan and Hong Xiuquan. I am. They both responded simultaneously. Then let the fight begin. Once the fight started, Yuan slowly approached Hong Xiuquan, who was standing still in a defensive position. His intentions were clear, he was going to repeat what he did during his fight with Wang Bingbing. So he's going to defend and try to counterattack, huh? Let's see your limits. Yuan accepted his challenge and dashed at Hong Xiuquan with his sword raised. However, midway through his swing, Hong Xiuquan, who was prepared to block the attack, suddenly shouted with his eyes wide, I surrender. Yuan immediately halted his movements, stopping his sword an inch away from Hong Xiuquan. Huh? Yuan doubted what had just heard. Did Hong Xiuquan just surrender? The spectators were also dumbfounded by Hong Xiuquan's sudden surrender. They didn't even fight. Why would he suddenly surrender? Young Master Hong, did you just surrender? The announcer asked Hong Xiuquan for confirmation. Yes, I surrender. Hong Xiuquan said in a nonchalant voice as he removed his gauntlets before leaving the stage and everyone speechless. Why? Yuan couldn't help but ask him, as he was looking forward to their fight. Hong Xiuquan stopped for a moment and turned to look at Yuan. He then said in a low voice, I lied. My arms are not in the condition to fight. However, neither Yuan nor Li Jinxi moved from their spot. A cold grin appeared on Li Jinxi's smile when she felt the force behind Yuan's attack, looking like she'd just found her perfect prey. Let's dance. She suddenly shouted, her voice filled with excitement. Chapter 570. Clang. 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 Yuan and Li Jinxi continued to swing their large swords at each other for many minutes, but neither of them was using their full strength just yet, as they were gradually increasing their strength to match each other. Heavens! How is he defending against Li Jinxi's attacks head-on? Does he also have a unique physique that gives him tyrannical strength? The spectators were shocked to witness Yuan fighting Li Jinxi on equal terms, something none of them have seen before. Who do you think will win this fight? Senior Wang asked the other Grand Elders. It's hard to tell. While we know Li Jinxi's full strength, we don't really know Daoist Yuan's full potential. Senior, she said. That is indeed true. For example, I could have never predicted that he had the strength to fight Li Jinsi head-on. I wonder if he also has a divine body. Considering how many talents he already has. It's not that crazy of an idea. Just what is he made out of? He's the definition of a flawless entity created by the heavens just to mess with everyone else. Meanwhile, on the stage, Li Jinsi started laughing, finally. I have been waiting for someone like you. Someone that I can fight to my heart's content without worrying that you die in a single hit. Clang. Yuan was pushed back a full meter when Li Jinsi started fighting for real. What a heavy strike. Yuan cried inwardly, his entire arm shaking afterward, feeling like head just struck an immovable mountain. What should I do? I am a little behind in terms of raw strength. Yuan pondered as he looked at Li Jinsi, who was glaring at him like a tiger before its prey. What are you waiting for? Are you too afraid to continue? I can tell that you're weaker than me in terms of strength. Li Jinsi said to him. Yuan remained silent. There was a good chance that his movement technique wouldn't work on her, who has very keen eyes and a fast reaction, not to mention her weird sword technique that allows her to change her sword's direction at will. Meanwhile, the doctors went to check on Li Jinsi's condition, who was only knocked unconscious with a couple of minor injuries. Young Master Yuan, do you have any words to say? The announcer handed Yuan a microphone. Yuan subconsciously accepted the microphone, but he had nothing in mind. Chapter 571. Thank you for letting me fight here today. It was a wonderful experience. Yuan said to the microphone before handing it back to the announcer and walking off the stage. Yuan. What kind of technique was that? I have never seen anyone dominate Li Jinsi in such a manner before. Wang Ming approached him with a look of disbelief on his face. Technique? That wasn't a technique. At least I don't think so. Yuan said. In fact, even he doesn't know what that power was. It came suddenly and disappeared as quickly. And even though it gave him incredible strength, Yuan regretted that he wouldn't be able to fight Li Jinsi properly. Is there anyone out there that can push me to my limits? Yuan sighed inwardly. At this rate, he will have to play if he wants to fight any worthy opponents. After the tournament, Yuan regrouped with the others. Congratulations, brother Yuan. You were very handsome on the stage. Chu Liuxiang said to him. Thank you. Yuan nodded. Daoist Yuan, what was that golden aura around you? It felt kind of similar to Li Jinsi's technique at the end. Senior Li asked him. Sorry, but I don't know. Yuan shook his head. The Grand Elders didn't say anything else, as they believed that Yuan wanted to keep his secrets to himself, which was a normal thing to do. Regardless, it was refreshing to see Li Jinsi being on the receiving end of the beatdown since she's usually the one beating her opponents. Senior Li laughed out loud despite talking about his own granddaughter. The dream ended with that sentence, and Yuan woke up the next moment. Tribulation. How am I supposed to prepare myself for something I know nothing about? That's impossible. Yuan sighed to himself. Chapter 572. After waking up, Yuan quietly left the bedroom and went outside the immortal caves, but it was still completely dark outside. Clearly, had woken up earlier than usual. He then walked to the small pavilion located right next to the immortal caves and took a seat underneath it. Just who am I? He mumbled in a low voice. Although he has pondered about his purpose in life many times throughout his life, he has never once questioned his identity. However, ever since he started having these dreams, he found himself questioning his identity more and more often. Who are my parents? Why did they abandon me? Am I really the reincarnation of a powerful cultivator? Or am I merely going crazy? Yuan sat underneath this pavilion for an unknown amount of time, silently pondering about his own identity and his reason for existing. Eventually, the sun began rising. Ding! When the sun just peeked over the horizon, Yuan heard a beautiful and familiar-sounding noise coming from somewhere not too far away from him, causing him to snap out of his daze. This sound. Someone is playing the zither? Yuan subconsciously stood up and began following the direction of the sound. After walking for a few minutes, he arrived in a secluded area behind the immortal caves, where a young woman was sitting on top of a large boulder playing with a wooden zither on her lap, her eyes completely closed. After a moment of silence, she said, "About that," she pointed at her closed eyes and said, "I don't want to scare you, but I lost my vision shortly after I started playing the zither, and I was born with perfect vision." "What?" Yuan muttered in a dazed manner. Chapter 573. You sound surprised. The young woman said after hearing his dazed mumble. And she continued, "Don't you also play the zither? Did nothing happen to you?" "As far as I am aware, everyone that plays the zither has encountered misfortune that ruined their lives one way or another." After a long moment, Yuan said, I learned to play the zither inside, where such a curse doesn't exist. In fact, this is my first time playing with the zither in this world." The young woman covered her mouth in a shocked manner. "Why didn't you say so before I handed you the zither? And why did you accept it? Now you'll also be met with misfortune," the young woman said to him in a worried voice, as she felt responsible for handing him the zither. Yuan chuckled and said, "You don't have to worry about me. I don't think playing a single song will affect me. Furthermore, he is already afflicted with many powerful curses, so having another one won't really matter to him. If you don't mind me asking, why are you still playing the zither despite the curse that took away your vision?" Yuan asked her afterward. "It's simple. I love the zither too much to let it go. It can take away my vision, but as long as I get to continue playing the zither, I don't mind some sacrifices," she responded in a calm voice. Yuan was left speechless by her words. He has never seen anyone so dedicated and passionate about an instrument before. If he was in her shoes, he would gladly give up playing instruments for his vision back. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Then can you tell me a little more about the curse? You said that you lost your vision shortly after playing the zither. How did it happen?" Chapter 574. Azure? Is that your nickname? Yuan asked her, as it was a weird name to have for someone part of the Wang family. Azure chuckled like a fairy before speaking, "No, that's my real name. I belong to the Wang family, but I do not share the same blood as them. In other words, I was adopted, and Azure was what the kids at the orphanage would call me, so I stuck to it." "She's also adopted?" Yuan's mouth opened a little from surprise. This is the first time that he can relate to someone so well. Not only were they both orphans, but both of them became sick out of the blue and without any logical explanation, not to mention that they also played the zither. It was almost as if Yuan was standing in front of a mirror right now. "Anyways, I have to go now. It was nice speaking with you, Yuan. If you are free in the future, let's play the zither together. I don't normally play outside, but since you're here, I will come outside more often." "Okay." Yuan immediately nodded. "How about tomorrow?" she then asked. "Same time?" Yuan asked. "Same time." "Then it's a promise. See you tomorrow." Azure then picked up her zither and left the place shortly after, but she didn't forget to wave at Yuan before she left. "Oh. Is this the sword technique used by Wang Ming during our first fight? So it was called Sword of Dominance, huh? What a domineering name. Very fitting for such a powerful strike." Yuan looked at the technique while trying his best to not accidentally learn them as he does in Chapter 575. Are these techniques too lackluster, or am I simply too spoiled by the techniques in? Despite looking through all of the techniques, Yuan didn't find any interest in them. "Have you found a suitable technique, Daoist Yuan?" the guard asked him when Yuan returned to him. "No," he shook his head. "Is there something wrong with the techniques?" The guard raised his eyebrows. "Not really. I am just not interested in them." That's unfortunate. I guess they are too weak compared to Daoist Yuan's techniques. If you ever change your mind, you can come back here at any time. Thank you. After spending about half an hour inside the pagoda, Yuan left the place empty-handed. You're out already? That was quicker than I'd anticipated. Chu Liuxiang said when he returned. Where's your cultivation technique? Meishio asked him. I didn't pick a technique, mostly because I already have more powerful techniques, he said. That makes sense. I doubt you'll be able to find a cultivation technique more powerful than divine rank in this world. Yuan shook his head and said, I don't think the ranks are an issue, since flying dagger is only a mortal rank technique. I guess I just don't have any need for them, and there's no point in me learning them if I am not going to use them. What are we going to do now? Meishio then asked. Let's just go home and relax for today. I have an appointment with Li Jinsi tomorrow, and I have a feeling that I will need all the energy I can spare. He said. Chapter 576. HAA. Bang! The ground shook as Li Jinsi struck the ground with her greatsword, creating a large crack in the earth, but she immediately pulled it back out to defend against Yuan's attack. Dong! Li Jinsi was sent flying for a few meters before stabilizing herself. Once she stabilized herself, she immediately rushed at Yuan again. How long are they going to keep this up? It's already been 3 hours since they started fighting. Wang Ming suddenly muttered. I think the better question is how much stamina do they have to continuously go at each other in such an aggressive fashion for so long without any breaks? I would have collapsed from exhaustion long ago. Wang Bingbing said. Ridiculous strength requires a ridiculous amount of stamina to back up that strength, so it's not unnatural for them to have so much stamina. Senior Li said. It's no wonder why she wasn't satisfied after the competition when their match only lasted for a couple of minutes. Wang Ming said. After fighting for another 2 hours, Yuan dropped his sword and said, Stop. I give up. I am too exhausted to continue. He then collapsed onto the ground in a similar manner and began gasping for air. Li Jinsi stopped moving and stood there with her entire body covered in sweat, looking like someone had poured a few buckets of water on her body recently. She then stabbed her sword into the ground before falling onto her buttocks. Wow! Yuan actually lost to Li Jinsi? Wang Ming mumbled in a dazed voice. After all, how can a blind man move around without any support, much less fight with the powerful cultivators? That didn't make any sense. Chapter 577. Why you can't be blind? You're definitely joking with me. Li Jinsi said to him after snapping out of her daze, refusing to believe that she'd been fighting with a blind man this entire time. I am serious, Yuan said. He then opened his eyelids with his hands, revealing his blank eyes that lacked any light to her. Li Jinsi covered her mouth and mumbled, Then how? How are you moving around like you can see? Nobody would believe that you're blind with how you move around and fight. I can use divine sense, allowing me to see things around me, but I can only see a few meters away from me. However, despite the limited range, I can see things clearer than others, he said. Divine sense? I think I have heard of that before. To think you can use such a technique in this world as well. You're really something else. If word gets out that Yuan is actually blind, who knows how they will react? Li Jinsi thought to herself. After a moment of silence, Li Jinsi spoke. Hey, you're interested in body tempering, right? Do you want to try it? Huh? I'm asking if you want to try tempering your body. I always have some medicine and herbs prepared. We can do it right now if you wish. Alright now? Yuan nodded and said, of course, and I'd like to visit the Hong family after looking at the treasures. The Hong family? May I ask what business you have with them? Perhaps I can help you. It's about getting medicine to temper my body. Although I would like to start tempering my body, I don't know where to acquire the medicine to do so, and Li Jinsi told me to visit the Hong family, he explained. Chapter 578. Medicine, huh? I understand. If that's the case, there isn't anything my Li family can do for you, as the Hong family handles most of the medicine in the Jaded Garden. Senior Li said. Wow, they must have a lot of medicine if they supply the entire faction. Yuan said in a surprised voice. Huh. After all, they are the ones that require the most medicine because of people like Hong Xiuquan, who tempers his body around the clock almost daily. Senior Li laughed. Anyways, follow me. I will show you some of our Li family's treasures. Senior Li then led Yuan and everyone to another room. Please wait for a minute while I retrieve the treasures. Senior Li said before leaving them alone in the room. Even if Senior Li trusted Yuan and greatly valued his presence, there was no way that he'd bring someone that isn't part of their family to their storage area where they keep all of their treasures. Yuan patiently waited for Senior Li's return, his anticipation high. About 15 minutes later, Senior Li returned with 3 boxes in his grasp. He placed them on the table before Yuan and the others. This is the first treasure. Senior Li opened the first box, revealing a somewhat dried-up ginseng inside. This is a treasure? Yuan raised his eyebrows. It was an honor. Senior Li smiled. Chapter 579. By the way, I forgot to ask, but how do you use the treasures? Yuan asked Senior Li after he returned from putting away the treasures. Well, you can consume the ginseng or use it to make medicine. As for the jade slip, you simply absorb the spiritual energy within, he said. I see. Sometime later, Yuan and the others left the Li family's living quarters. Li Jinsi, show them the way to the Hong family. We also need to restock our medicine. Senior Li said to her. I understand. Thus, Li Jinsi led them to the Hong family. HM. Daoist Yuan. What brings you to the Hong family? Senior Hong asked him, feeling pleasantly surprised by his presence. Hello. I'd like to temper my body, but I don't know where to get the medicine required for it, and the Li family recommended that I speak with your family. Yuan said. I see. You came at the perfect time. Our family is currently harvesting this month's medicine supply, Senior Hong said. Harvesting? Yuan raised his eyebrows. So you grow your own medicine? Yes. Follow me. Senior Hong then led Yuan and the others to a few miles behind their living quarters, where a large medicine farm was located. Wow. Yuan mumbled, feeling awed from the medicine farm that stretched to the horizon. Every month, we harvest around 100 kilos of medicine from this place. Senior Hong said. Chapter 580. After resting for a bit inside the immortal caves, Yuan and the others went to get dinner. Once dinner was finished, Yuan went to take a bath, and he decided to try tempering his body with the medicine he'd received from the Hong family. However, during his tempering, someone opened the door and entered the bathroom. Knowing that it wasn't a stranger, Yuan didn't panic this time. However, he was still surprised to see Chu Liuxiang entering the bathroom with nothing but a towel around her body. Can I take a bath with you, Brother Yuan? She asked him. I don't really mind, but the water is, he said. Before Yuan could even finish his sentence, Chu Liuxiang removed her towel and tossed it to the side before joining the bathtub with him. Of course, the bathtub in the Immortal Caves wasn't anywhere close to the size of the one in Li Jinsi's bathroom, so it was a little cramped in the bathtub with Chu Luxiang's smooth skin rubbing against Yuan's body. Once the both of them were comfortable, they would sit there in awkward silence. We should do this more often. Chu Liuxiang suddenly said. I wouldn't mind that if we had a bigger bathtub. Yuan chuckled. After another moment of silence, Chu Liuxiang asked, Brother Yuan, have you ever considered starting your own family? So you refuse to start a family? Because you are afraid of burdening them? I thought you were strong enough to protect them. Yuan said to him. You know nothing, kid. Nobody is born at the peak, not even the ultimate genius. Despite where I ended, I wasn't always strong. Furthermore, I was too dedicated to cultivation, so even if I started a family, I wouldn't have any time for them. There's no point. The handsome man shook his head. Chapter 581. A gentle moan resounded beside him when Yuan awoke from his sleep, and to his surprise, his hands were grasping onto Chu Luxiang's soft breasts. He quickly removed his hands, but as he prepared to apologize, he realized that Chu Luxiang was deep asleep. Meanwhile, Meishio was cultivating beside the bed. Ever since she started cultivating at the Immortal Caves, she had gained a level, reaching the second-level Spirit Warrior. Yuan silently left the bedroom and went to check the time. Once again, Head woke up early. He then went to the bathroom to wash his face before making his way outside, returning to the spot Head met Azure. And to his surprise, there was a figure sitting on the boulder with a zither resting beside her, and she was in the middle of cultivation. Yuan didn't want to bother her and sat down a few meters away from her, silently admiring Azure's elegant appearance. "You're here early." Azure suddenly spoke a few minutes later, surprising Yuan. "I woke up early again," he said. "What a coincidence. I also woke up earlier than usual today. Maybe it's because I have been eager to play the zither with you," she chuckled gracefully. "Anyways, since we're both here, why don't we play together now?" she then said. "Sure. But I don't have a zither." "That's fine. Follow me. I have a spare one in my room." Yuan proceeded to follow Azure back to the Immortal Caves. Ding every few steps, Azure would pull a string on her zither, creating a single note that would echo in the place. If you're wondering why I am doing this, I am using the sound to guide me. Although I cannot see with my eyes, I can see with my zither. How does that work? That's good. Anyways, follow me. The bow is finished. A few minutes later, they arrived at the crafting area. Chapter 582. Give me a moment. Senior Hong went inside the building for a minute before returning with a cart that had a long wooden box resting on it. "Here, race your bow. Check it out." Senior Hong opened the box, revealing the beautiful black short bow inside. Meishio immediately went to pick up the bow, and to her surprise, was it many times heavier than any bow she has wielded before. However, it wasn't heavy enough to where she couldn't use it. She proceeded to move the bow around trying to get a feel for it. "What do you think? If the weight isn't right, I can adjust it for you, but I can only make it lighter since that's already the heaviest I can make it." "The weight is perfectly fine. Thank you for this bow." Meishio bowed to him in a respectful manner. "Ha! Don't even mention it. You deserve it. Go ahead, try shooting with it." Senior Hong handed her an arrow. Meishio took the arrow and proceeded to shoot it at a nearby tree. Even the string feels so different. It's more durable, and pulling back on it gives me confidence for some reason. Meishio thought to herself. Whoosh! Meishio released the string once she got her aim, and the arrow flew in a straight line until it hit her desired location. However, nobody had a good solution in the end, and despite many speculations about the tribulation, they won't really know until it happens. Dyeing the entire world red. That sounds horrible. Yuan sighed as they returned to the Immortal Caves. Chapter 583. Brother Yuan, do you think the divination is true? Or is this merely a coincidence? Chu Liuxiang asked him when they returned. "I want to believe it's merely a coincidence, but..." A bittersweet smile appeared on his face when he recalled what the handsome man in his dream told him. "I don't know. I just have a bad feeling about the situation." Chu Liuxiang shrugged and said, "Well, even if there is a calamity, I'm sure you'll protect us, Brother Yuan." Yuan smiled and said, "Of course. That is my number one priority." The following day, Yuan woke up early in the morning again. "You've been waking up early lately, Yuan." Meishio suddenly stopped cultivating and said to him. "I'm meeting up with a friend that I made recently," he said. "The one who gave you the zither?" "Yes." "I see. Have fun." Meishio returned to cultivating the next moment. After cleaning his face, Yuan grabbed his zither and went to meet up with Azure behind the immortal caves. Have you heard about the approaching calamity? Yuan suddenly asked Azure at the end of their session. The sky is red, young Master Yuan, Sebastian responded in a serious voice. What? Red? How is that possible? Yuan exclaimed. Chapter 584. I have never seen anything like this before. Sebastian continued speaking. Although there were times when the sky looked red, it never looked this red, like the sky is stained with blood. Brother Yuan. Do you think this is caused by the calamity? Chu Liuxiang asked him in a worried voice. I don't know, but it's very possible. Let's hurry and find the Grand Elders. Yuan suggested. Thus, they began running to the Wang family's living quarters since they were the closest to the immortal caves. On their way there, they passed through many disciples, and all of them were staring at the sky with dazed looks on their faces. Heavens! It's almost like doomsday is upon us. One of them muttered out loud. This must be the calamity our ancestors warned us about. The calamity is coming. Oh! I don't want to die. At least wait until I find a cute girlfriend. Everyone in the jaded garden appeared to be panicking, but nobody blamed them. In fact, it was a chaotic scene everywhere around the world at this moment. Right as Yuan and the others arrived at the Wang family, they noticed Senior Wang and the Wang siblings leaving the gates. Senior Wang. Yuan called out to her. Daoist Yuan. Perfect timing. Come with me. Senior Wang said to him. How should I respond to her confession? Yuan sat there and silently pondered to himself until sunrise. And just as he prepared to return to the immortal caves, another earthquake appeared, and it would last a tad bit longer than the last one, not to mention a little stronger as well. Chapter 585. Another earthquake? Yuan quickly returned to the immortal caves. Is the sky red again? Yuan asked them when he returned. No, the sky hasn't changed this time, Meishio said after looking outside. Is that so? Yuan decided to stay at the immortal caves with Meishio and the others just in case something were to happen, but sometime in the afternoon, Wang Ming showed up at their immortal caves. Wang Ming? What happened? Yuan, come with me. We have discovered something new, he said. Really? Let's go. Wang Ming proceeded to bring Yuan and the others to the Wang family, where Senior Wang was waiting for their arrival. What did you find? Yuan asked her. You probably don't know this since we never mentioned it, but we built this place close to our ancestors' tomb, and according to the people who maintain that place, the spiritual energy there has become chaotic and even somewhat menacing. Perhaps there is a clue in that place about the approaching calamity. Senior Wang said. And she continued, I will be heading there now with the other Grand Elders. Do you want to come with us? Of course. Yuan immediately nodded. Great. Follow me. Nope. I don't see anything different either. Everything looks normal to me. They all expressed the same thoughts. Chapter 586. Brother Yuan, how is your body feeling? Is it still heating up? Chu Liuxiang asked him. He nodded and said, yes, it's still heating up, but it doesn't hurt, so it's nothing to be worried about. If you ask me, I think your body is reacting to something within this tomb. Maybe you actually belong to one of the 6 spiritual families, and your body is telling you so. Chu Liuxiang chuckled as she joked. I belong to one of the 6 spiritual families? Yuan raised his eyebrows. As ridiculous as that sounded, it wasn't completely impossible. As an orphan, his real background could be anything, and that includes one of the 6 spiritual families. However, they won't really know for certain until there is solid proof. Anyways, jokes aside, look at these weapons. Many of them are treasures. Chu Liuxiang said as she approached the weapon display cases. They give off the same aura as spirit-grade weapons in. Yuan mumbled. While Yuan and the others looked at the weapons, the Grand Elders scattered around the tomb to make sure there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. About half an hour later, they all gathered again. Anything? Nope. Nothing. Yuan then asked, "Is this the only room in the tomb?" Chapter 587. It's a demon. Impossible. Why is there a demon in this place? Yuan was shocked to the core when he saw the demon statue. Although he has only seen a couple of them, their unique features were more than enough for Yuan to immediately recognize them at glance. Wait. Calm down. I am overthinking things. There is no way demons really exist in this world, right? That is only a stone statue, nothing more. Yuan began trying to convince himself that the stone statue was merely just that and not a real demon that had been sealed, even though it looked ridiculously realistic. However, that didn't explain why his body was burning when looking at the demon statue, as his body was clearly reacting to it. "Brother Yuan, what do you see?" Chu Liuxiang asked him when he remained silent for too long. Sorry, but I think I overreacted to that statue over there." Yuan pointed at the demon statue that was surrounded by the 6 golden coffins. The stone statue? Everybody there turned to look at the statue. Since it was sort of dark there, they didn't notice the horns and other features immediately. When they eventually noticed these unique features, their eyes widened with shock. What the? Why is there such a thing in the founder's tomb? Senior Wang then said, "Let's look around to see if there are any clues for now. I'm sure the founders placed this demon in this place for a reason. Hell, they might have even left behind the method to deal with the demon. We can figure out the other things later." Chapter 588. Yuan and the other began looking around the room, but there really wasn't much there to look at besides the sealed demon and the 6 golden coffins. After a few minutes of looking around, the Grand Elders gathered. "Besides the founder's coffin, there isn't anything else for us to look at," Senior Hong said. "But to disturb the founder's peace, if we don't do it, that demon will kill everyone once it breaks out of the seal. I'm sure they'll understand." "You got a point," the Grand Elders then bowed to the golden coffins. "We deeply apologize for disturbing your peace, founders." After apologizing to their founders, the Grand Elders went to their family's coffin. Each of the coffins had one of the 6 spiritual family surnames engraved into it, so the Grand Elders knew which one belonged to their family. Once they were prepared, they opened the coffin to take a look inside. However, to their surprise, all of the coffins were empty. There was nothing, not even signs of a body having ever existed inside these coffins, almost like it was empty since the beginning. "Why are these coffins here if they're empty?" Senior Wang muttered out loud everyone's question. "If our founders are not in here, where are their bodies?" Senior Hong asked afterward. "Let's look around again to make sure that there aren't any hidden passages." Thus, the Grand Elders began a round of inspection. "This is exactly what I want. Flesh and blood, I want to feast." The demon roared as it sped up the narrow staircase, quickly chasing after Yuan and the others. Chapter 589. What was that sound just now? It sounded like an explosion. Fuck. I really hope the demon didn't just break out of its seal. The Grand Elders panicked as they ran upstairs. Meanwhile, Yuan tried his best to learn the demon's sealing strike even as they moved, as that was essentially his only chance of winning against a demon at his current strength. Eventually, they reached the surface and returned to the main tomb. "Seniors, I am going to borrow some of the weapons in here," Yuan said to them, and without waiting for a response, he retrieved a great sword that resembled the Empyrean Overlord in size from its display case along with a couple of daggers. "Weapons? Don't tell me you're planning to fight the demon?" Senior Wang asked him. Yuan nodded and said, "I can sense a powerful aura quickly approaching us from the staircase. The demon will be here at any minute. If I don't stay here to stop it, everyone will die." That's why I will stay here to stall the demon while you all evacuate the disciples. No. Chu Liuxiang immediately refused. Then she said, if you're going to stay here, I will stay here with you. You must not, young lady. It's my duty to guarantee your safety. Sebastian exclaimed. I don't care. I am not going to leave Brother Yuan here to die. Humans, be obedient and offer yourself to me and I will make things as painless as possible. If you dare resist, I will make sure you feel it as I slowly tear your flesh from your body with nothing but my teeth. The demon spoke with a hideous grin on its face, revealing its sharp yellow teeth to them. In response to the demon's words, Yuan tightened his grip on the sword, and without waiting for the Grand Elders, he rushed at the demon. Chapter 590. Ha 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 ha. The demon started laughing when it saw Yuan running at it in a seemingly reckless manner. A mere early-stage spirit master dares to challenge me? A demon? Your mother must have never taught you about demons, human. The demon stood there without moving as it continued laughing even though Yuan was already in front of it. Ha! Yuan swung his sword with all of his might, tearing the demon's body in half. Oh. You're a little more powerful than you appear. No wonder why you dared to challenge me. The demon remained calm even after getting split in half. However, that won't be enough to stop me from ripping your flesh and chewing your bones. The demon completely regenerated its body before it even finished its sentence. He wasn't exaggerating about their regeneration abilities. How are we supposed to defeat a monster like that? The Grand Elders lost all will to fight when they witnessed firsthand the demon's heaven-defying regenerating abilities, and they could only stand there in shock as they watched Yuan fight with the demon. Of course, the demon wasn't taking Yuan seriously, as it was still filled with exhilaration from breaking free from the seal, so it wanted to play around with its food before eating them as a way of celebrating its freedom. However, even as he was fighting the demon, Yuan didn't stop trying to comprehend the demon's sealing strike inside his head. The demon eventually got tired of just taking Yuan's attacks and retaliated with its own attack. Bloody claws. The demon used its blood to turn its fingers into a long and sharp weapon before swinging them at Yuan. Flying daggers. Taoist Yuan, you can go ahead of us. Yuan nodded and immediately used his movement technique while pouring all of his spiritual energy into it, reaching a speed that he didn't know was possible before. Chapter 591. After leaving the ancestors' tomb, Senior Wang and the others rushed back to the Jaded Garden to warn all of the disciples about the demon. Of course, the disciples were in disbelief at first, but they eventually snapped out of their daze and started making their way to the evacuation site, where a private airport and dozens of large airplanes had been prepared just in case they ever needed to do a mass evacuation. Leave everything behind. The demon is being stalled by Taoist Yuan and the Grand Elders. Don't let their efforts go to waste. Senior Wang shouted at the disciples that were stumbling around in a panic. Miss Meishio, we have a helicopter. Let's leave here in advance. Sebastian said to her, who was still carrying Chu Liuxiang even though had offered to carry Chu Liuxiang for her. Meishio nodded. Although they will be leaving behind their luggage, they can always return for them in the future when the demon is no longer a threat. Thus, Meishio followed Sebastian to the helicopter. Of course, she made sure to warn the people in the hotel and Jean, who brought them to the Jaded Garden. What? There's a monster? How is that possible? Jean doubted Mixius' words at first, but then the hotel he was staying at received news from the Jaded Garden about the situation. I will be leaving this place with them, so you can return by yourself, Meishio said to Jean before following Sebastian to their helicopter and leaving the Jaded Garden. What are we going to do now? Meishio asked Sebastian once they were in the air. Chapter 592. Oh. What a pleasant surprise. Looks like I no longer have to waste time looking for you. I will make you pay for that embarrassment before. The demon licked its hand that was covered in Azure's blood when it noticed Yuan standing a few meters away from it. This blood is fucking delicious. The demon was surprised when it tasted Azure's blood. She will make for a good dessert after I finish eating you, human. The demon laughed loudly. However, there was no response from Yuan, who silently stood there in a daze, almost like head turned into a stone statue. 2 streams of tears began flowing down his face a moment later when he realized the situation. Azure, Yuan eventually snapped out of his shock, and when he did, he gritted his teeth so hard that his mouth began bleeding. Aawawa. Yuan released a beastly roar that shook the trees around them before rushing at the demon without any movement techniques. He was simply rushing at the demon in a reckless manner. In fact, he wasn't even thinking at all, as his mind was filled with anger and desperation. Shah! The demon slashed its claw-like hands at Yuan, and because of its recent feast, its power had grown much more than previously, sending Yuan flying many meters into the distance. Cough! Yuan coughed out a mouthful of blood afterward, but he immediately stood up before rushing at the demon once again. The demon quickly noticed Yuan's sudden change in behavior, and it turned to look at Azure's body on the ground. Oh. Did you know her? Perhaps she was your lover? What a pity. If I had known that earlier, I would have kept her alive so that I could torture her before you. The demon sighed in a regretful manner. Chapter 593. Snack on Demon Cores. I am possible. You can't be. The demon quickly realized Yuan's identity, but it didn't dare to actually believe it. After all, there is only one person in this universe who can consume demon cores, and that individual is the founder of the demon sealing clan, Divine Paragon. The Divine Paragon is the bane of all demons. No matter how powerful a demon is, they will remain as mere ants before the Divine Paragon, who can kill demons as simple as breathing. Why you cannot be the Divine Paragon? What are you doing here? Why do you look like that? Why are you showing your true identity now? The demon questioned him. Whether I am real or not. Why don't we put that to the test? Yuan spoke in a calm voice as he slowly approached the demon. Furthermore, Yuan had activated the golden aura once again, but it was much clearer than previously, and he had complete control over it. The demon took a step back every time Yuan took a step forward, but it didn't dare to turn around and run, as it was afraid that if it turned its back to Yuan, it would die without realizing what had happened. However, after walking a dozen steps, the demon suddenly felt something against its back, preventing it from walking back any further. The demon subconsciously turned around to see what was blocking it, as it was certain that there wasn't anything in that direction, and sure enough, when it looked, there was plenty of empty space behind it. However, for some reason, it was unable to move any further, almost like there was an invisible wall there. Where do you think you're going? Yuan suddenly spoke to it. The demon immediately turned to look at Yuan, who had a malicious grin on his face. And he continued, I will crush you 10 times for every human you killed. If you don't tell me, I will torture you until I feel like stopping. The demon stared at Yuan with a terrified gaze. You, monster. It muttered in a powerless voice. Chapter 594. Hurry up and tell me how many humans you killed today. I'm not a very patient person. Yuan spoke before crushing the demon into meat paste again. Once it regenerated, the demon muttered in a trembling voice, I don't remember. You don't remember? Maybe this will jog your memories. Splat. The demon slammed into the ground, instantly turning into a pool of blood. Do you remember now? Yuan asked it again after it regenerated. However, before it could even speak, Yuan interrupted it by flattening it again. Aha! Splat! Aawa! Splat! After flattening the demon a dozen times, Yuan finally stopped flattening it to let it speak. Do you remember now? I remember. I remember. Please. I remember everything. The demon quickly responded this time, as it feared that Yuan would flatten it again before it could even speak. Speak. I killed. When the demon heard Yuan's words and realized that it wasn't dreaming, it literally lost its mind from shock and terror, and it also finally understood why even the strongest demons would run away in fear when they hear the name Divine Paragon. Chapter 595. Once a demon opposes me, whether they die or live, is no longer within their control. Yuan stood before the demon with an overbearing atmosphere around him, looking like an overlord. The demon, which had lost its sanity, suddenly released a long and beastly roar. Its glowing red eyes turned dark red, and vigorous veins began popping all over its body. The demon also grew in size, becoming about 30% larger. Yuan smiled when he saw this, and he muttered in a low voice, "Looks like it's about time I stop playing with my food." The demon swung its claw-like hands at Yuan with all of its power. Seeing this, Yuan casually blocked the attack with his bare arms, completely stopping the demon in its tracks despite being an entire realm weaker than it. After blocking the attack, Yuan suddenly extended his free arm, aiming it at the red crystal in the demon's chest. Shaw! Yuan's hand pierced the demon's body like how it pierced Azure, before pulling out the red crystal from its chest. Normally, even if the red crystal is removed from a demon's chest, it would simply turn into blood and return to the demon, but in this case, the red crystal didn't turn into blood and remained as a crystal inside Yuan's grasp. "Disappear from my sight, you lowly demon." Yuan then tightened his fist, crushing the red crystal into countless tiny fragments. The demon suddenly stopped all movements. Chapter 596. After arriving in Yang City, Meishio and Sebastian rented out a hotel to stay in for the time being, as Chu Liuxiang was still unconscious. "Brother Yuan." Chu Liuxiang woke up shouting about half an hour after they arrived at the hotel. Where are we? Where's Brother Yuan?" Chu Liuxiang asked Meishio, who was in the same room. "We are currently in Yang City," she replied. "What about Brother Yuan?" "He's still in the Jaded Garden." "Why? Why did you leave him behind? I thought you loved him." Chu Liuxiang cried out loud. "Calm down, young lady," Sebastian suddenly said. "It was the young master's decision. If you truly love him, you would respect his wishes." That's. Chu Liuxiang was immediately left speechless by Sebastian's words. Clearly, he was used to dealing with her. Believe in the young master. He's destined to achieve great things in the future, so he won't die there, Sebastian continued. "I guess you're right. But what are we going to do now? I cannot just sit around and do nothing. Call my father. We're going to request his help to deal with the demon." Chu Liuxiang then said. "I have already notified the masters of the situation. They are currently pondering on how they should approach this problem as we speak. We can only wait for their response now. This situation is much direr than you probably think, young lady. If the demon is allowed to run rampant, it could very well be the end of humanity." Chapter 597. Brother Yuan. Where's Brother Yuan? Chu Liuxiang rushed to the hospital after returning to the Jaded Garden with Meishio and Sebastian. Daoist Yuan is currently resting in the patient room. Senior Wang said to them. "What about his condition?" Meishio then asked. "Don't worry, he's no longer in a critical condition." "Thank you." Meishio released a deep and relieved sigh. "We don't deserve your gratitude, as we didn't really do anything." There was a massive hole in the center of Daoist Yuan's chest, but it closed up on its own before we could treat it. However, he's still in a coma, and we don't know when he'll wake up. Senior Wang then led them to the room that Yuan was resting in. Inside the room, the other grand elders as well as some of the elite disciples such as Wang Ming and Li Jinxi were there. "Brother Yuan." Chu Liuxiang ran to the bed where Yuan was resting. "Are you okay, Yuan? Can you speak?" Meishio asked him. Chapter 598. I am fine. Where am I? And how long have I been asleep? Yuan asked in a low voice. We are currently inside the Six Spiritual Families private hospital, and you have been asleep for about 2 weeks now, Meisho said. That long? Yuan slowly sat up on the bed. I'm sorry if I made you too worried, but I am fine. He said to them a moment later. Wait right here. I will get the doctors to check your condition. Meisho then went to call for a doctor. After checking Yuan's body, the doctor said, his body is a little weak right now, but besides that, everything is normal. Thank you, doctor. I need to speak with the grand elders, Yuan said to Meisho. The calamity. It's not over yet. What? Meixia's eyes widened with shock. What do you mean the calamity isn't over yet? Didn't you defeat the demon already? Chu Liuxiang quickly asked. Yes, the demon is gone. However, that isn't the only demon in this world. There are other sealed demons in this world, and they will eventually break from their seal. Unbelievable. So we'll have to deal with this again? Meisho muttered in a voice of disbelief. Sometime later, the grand elders gathered at the hospital inside Yuan's room. Chapter 599. Brother Yuan, you can be pretty cruel at times, you know? Chu Liuxiang suddenly said to him after they lifted into the air in their private plane. Why would you say that? Yuan asked in a dumbfounded voice. You already forgot about hitting me with a sword and knocking me unconscious? Chu Liuxiang puffed her cheeks in an angry yet cute manner. Oh. That. I'm sorry, but if I didn't do that, you could have gotten hurt for real. Yuan apologized. I understand why you did it, and I am thankful that you did, but I cannot help but be upset about it. Therefore, as punishment, you'll have to hug me while we sleep tonight. Chu Liuxiang then said. Yuan didn't say anything and merely nodded with a slight smile on his face. And for the rest of the flight, Yuan would remain relatively silent, seemingly in deep thoughts the whole time. Neither Meisho nor Chu Liuxiang tried to speak with him when they saw his mood, as they can tell that he was still in pain from what happened at the Jaded Garden, and sometimes, it was the better choice to let them ponder in peace than to try and comfort them. After the whole incident in the Jaded Garden, Yuan's view of this world has flipped upside down, and coupled with the new revelation that exists somewhere in this universe, Yuan wasn't sure how he should do next. This must be your room, brother Yuan. It smells like you. Chu Liuxiang said with a smile on her face after taking a deep breath. She then laid on the bed and continued, this will also be my room starting today. Chapter 600. Oh, right. Yuan, you should call Yuro. Although ID already explained the situation to her, you should still speak with her. Meisho said to him after unpacking their luggage. Okay. Meisho then handed her phone to him. Hello? Yuro? It's me, Yuan. Brother. Are you okay? Yes, I am fine. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there for you. I would actually prefer it if you weren't here. I don't want you to be in such a dangerous situation. Yuan said. After talking for a few minutes, Yuro asked, what are you going to do now that you're back home? I am going to create my own faction and focus on. You're going to create your own faction? When? As soon as we can, I guess. Why did you wait so long to make your faction, brother? If you'd told me earlier, I would have joined you. I am too invested in my faction to leave now, sorry. Yuan had nothing else to say. Well. Make sure you visit me soon. The Cultivators Association? I didn't think we would go back there so soon. Yuan sighed. Chapter 601. Yuan, I have been wondering this ever since I learned that you were blind. But how do you see where you're going? You can move and even fight better than most people who can see. I almost didn't believe it when I first heard it. Wang Ming said to him as they walked down the street as one big group. Although I am blind, I am not actually blind. I can see using divine sense. Yuan said, and he began explaining to them about divine sense. The Grand Elders are spirit masters as well, but they cannot use divine sense. Wang Bingbing shook her head. By the way, what's the faction going to be called? Shi Lang then asked. Demon Sealing Faction, Yuan calmly responded. Demon Sealing. They all looked at him with wide eyes. Does this mean, yes, our purpose is to deal with the demons that will eventually break out of their seal? Of course, I don't actually expect any of you to fight the demons. I can handle them alone, but if you wish to learn how to seal demons, I can teach you. Really? You'll teach us how to defeat demons? Wang Ming exclaimed in an excited voice. After what happened at the Jaded Garden, he wished that he had the ability to fight demons. If that's what you want. Yuan nodded. Sometime later, they arrived at the Cultivators Association that was as busy as ever with cultivators mostly at the Spirit Apprentice level walking around. Yuan took a deep breath, clearing the bad memories he had in this place, before walking inside with the others. Once all of their names were in the system, Chairman Li created their faction. Normally, a newly registered faction would need to be vetted first before they are approved, but with Chairman Li's position within the Cultivators Association, they easily skipped all of those steps and instantly got approved as an official faction. Congratulations, your faction Demon Sealing Faction has been created. If you ever need anything or have any questions, you are free to contact me at any time and I will do my best to help you. Chairman Li said to them afterward. Chapter 602. Does this mean we are done here? Yuan asked after their faction was created. Not completely. Your faction has been created, but we still need some more information, such as the location of your faction headquarters, and if you want, you can register your members' cultivation base into the system so that we can rank your faction. Chairman Li said. And he continued, of course, the higher rank your faction, the more benefit you can receive. The location of our faction? Yuan mumbled. What if we don't have a location yet? He then asked. That's completely fine. It's not required to have a headquarter for your faction, but most factions have one, as it makes them look more professional. Also, it would make things more convenient for the members if they can all live in the same area. Yuan turned around and asked the others, well? What do you guys think? We don't have any living quarters at the moment since we weren't sure if you wanted us to stay afterward, but we can live in hotels or rent out someplace near your apartment if it's too much to get our own headquarters since they're not cheap. Wang Ming said. If it's a money issue, we can simply ask our families for help. Li Jinsi said calmly. I think it's more of a location issue since I don't have any ideas where we should make our headquarters, Yuan said. If you need help looking for a headquarter, our Cultivators Association can help you. We have specialists for this kind of stuff. We will help you scout out areas based on your preferences, and we can give out loans with zero interest if you need help with money. Chairman Li suddenly said, realizing that this is a perfect opportunity to make things right between the Cultivators Association and Yuan, whose faction will surely become a top power in the near future. Yuan and the others left the Cultivators Association shortly afterward. Chapter 603. Where will you guys be staying until we have our headquarters? Yuan asked Wang Ming and the others. Well, probably rent a hotel somewhere close to your apartment. It'll only be for around a week, anyway. Wang Ming said. What about you? What are you going to be doing in the meantime? Li Jinsi asked him, as she was hoping to train with him while they waited. I am going to return to. It's been a very long time since I last stepped foot in that world, after all, he said. Question mark. The elite disciples raised their eyebrows simultaneously. Although they have played before, none of them took it seriously. Maybe he wants to get his mind of that incident by indulging himself in. All of the elite disciples had a similar thought, so they didn't question him. Sometime later, Yuan and the elite disciples went their separate ways. I didn't think he'd really allow us to stay. Shi Murong said once they left. Why not? He's a very nice guy if you get to know him. Wang Ming said. Really? I feel nervous when he's around. His presence is extraordinary. That doesn't mean he's a bad person. In fact, he can be quite humble at times. Chapter 604. Sect Master. Regarding this year's disciple recruitment, a group of high-ranking sect elders stood before Song Linger as they talked about their future plans for the Heavenly Melody Academy. However, midway through their meeting, Song Linger noticed that one of her communication jade slips was trembling, and it was the one that she'd been anticipating for the longest. Seeing this, Song Linger immediately listened to the message from it. I am currently outside the Heavenly Melody Academy. Yuan's voice resounded. He's finally here. Song Linger stood up and shouted in an excited voice. This startled the sect elders, and they all proceeded to stare at her with puzzled looks. The meeting will end early today. We'll continue this at another date. Song Linger said to them before leaving the scene in a hurry without explaining to them the situation. The sect elders could only speculate that something serious must have happened to cause her to leave with such urgency. Little did they know that she was only going to greet a young man at the entrance of their sect. Once Song Linger left the meeting, she quickly sent Yuan a message stating that she will be there shortly. Meanwhile, outside the Heavenly Melody Academy, the disciples guarding the gate said to Yuan, who had been standing outside their sect for a while now, "Excuse me, but you cannot linger outside the sect, so you'll have to leave. I am waiting for your sect master, who should be arriving here now." Yuan said to them in a calm voice. Since you're here, does it mean you'll be challenging the stairway to heaven soon? Song Linger asked him as they walked around the sect. Yes. I wanted to explore the lower heavens a little more before, but alas. Looks like I will have to postpone that plan for the future. Chapter 605. Leaving it for the future? You know it's going to be very difficult for you to return once you ascend, right? Especially the higher you go, the more resources it'll require for you to come back to the lower heavens, Song Linger said to him. I know, but it's not impossible. Song Linger stared at him in silence for a moment before speaking. Did something happen? There's something different about you. Huh? How can you tell? A woman's intuition, I guess, she casually shrugged. Yuan then sighed. Something did happen, but it's all in the past now, and dwelling on it won't do me any good. While it's definitely not worth dwelling on some things, some definitely are worth it, as it could be what pushes you further past your limit. If you want to talk to me about it, I am all ears. Yuan pondered for a moment before asking, Senior Song. Do you know anyone close to you that have passed away? Sorry if it's a sensitive question. Song Linger looked at him with raised eyebrows. Death? This is the cultivation world, where death is probably one of if not the most common thing regardless of which realm you're in. I don't think there is anyone around my age that hasn't experienced the death of a friend or a loved one. In fact, I have lost many friends to magical beasts and even more to other cultivators. I thought it was something more serious, but I guess this is your first time experiencing something like this, which is pretty normal. Chapter 606. If he's the god of music, he should have a very high cultivation base, right? I heard that cultivators who can live forever exist in the upper heavens. Yuan said. You mean true immortals? These people can be counted with one hand. And while he was recognized as the god of music, that doesn't automatically make him a powerful cultivator. Perhaps if he was called the god of cultivation, it would make more sense. Song Linger said. The god of music, huh? I wonder what kind of person he was. Yuan mumbled to himself. Unfortunately, not much is known about the god of music besides his name, Tian Kai. Yuan raised his eyebrows after hearing the surname Tian, as it sounded familiar for some reason. Their surnames are also Tian. Yuan thought to himself. After a moment of silence, Yuan asked Song Linger, do you mind if I play a song here? Right now? Song Linger raised her eyebrows. Yes, I want to pay my respects to both of them the same way the zither goddess paid respect to the god of music. Go ahead. Yuan then retrieved the soul-ensnaring zither before taking a seat right before the two statues. After taking a deep breath, he began playing zither goddess ethereal arts. Ding, for most cultivators, yes, that is the case, but I am content with my current standing. I am the sect master of the Heavenly Melody Academy. If I leave the lower heavens, I will have to start climbing from the bottom again. Furthermore, I don't have anybody who can replace my position as sect master. If I leave now, the Heavenly Melody Academy will suffer. Song Linger explained. Chapter 607. Maybe in the future when I have someone who is capable of replacing me as sect master, I will challenge the stairway to heaven again. Anyways, for the stairway to heaven, when I challenged it, I had to do 4 trials. For the first trial, I had to fight a stampede of magical beasts that was 2 levels above my cultivation. For the second trial, I had to traverse 1,000 miles while being burdened by a powerful pressure and magical beasts. For the third trial, I had to confront my heart demon. And for the final trial, I had to fight another magical beast, but this time, it was 5 whole levels above my cultivation. Although the trials are random for everyone, many people have received the same trial before, so there's a good chance that you'll experience some of the same trials I went through. I see. This information will definitely be helpful to me. Thank you, Senior Song. If there's anything I can do in return, don't hesitate to ask. Yuan said to her. I do have one request for you. Can you do a performance before the disciples for me? I want to broaden their views. Most of them think I am the #1 zither expert under heaven, but that is far from the truth, as there are plenty more skillful zither experts in the upper heavens. Okay. I don't mind if it's just a performance. When do you want me to do it? I will need some time to prepare for it. Can you give me 3 days? You can even stay here as an esteemed guest if you'd like. A performance? By whom? An expert that's even better than me, she casually responded, leaving them speechless. Chapter 608. Even better than you, sect master? Who is this person? One of the sect elders asked. You'll find out in 3 days, she casually responded. Meanwhile, back at the music pagoda, Yuan decided to see if the music sheets on the second floor were any different. There are more notes. I guess the higher the floor the more difficult the songs. Now that he had this knowledge, he wanted to see what was the most difficult song in this place, so he began making his way towards the 11th floor. Once he reached the 11th floor, he walked straight to the zither section and began looking through the music sheets one by one. Oh. I recognize this song. Yuan was surprised by the first music sheet that Head randomly picked, and it was the same song that Head played during the zither competition after learning it from Song Linger's disciples. Even though he already knew the song, he still wanted to look at the music sheet properly to get a better understanding of it. While Yuan looked at this music sheet, a disciple approached him from behind. Hey, you're blocking the shelf. This disciple said to him. Oh, I am sorry. Yuan turned around to see a beautiful young lady standing behind him, and she looked very familiar for some reason. Isn't she from the zither competition? It took a moment for Yuan to recognize this girl, who was the one that played the incredible song God Descends from Heaven during the zither competition. However, this girl didn't recognize Yuan, who wasn't wearing a mask at this moment but did during the zither competition. As Yuan made way for her, she noticed the music note in his grasp. This was all my fault, elders. If you're going to hold anyone responsible, it should be me. AI-1 suddenly stepped forward and said. Prime Disciple AI? The sect elders looked at her with wide eyes, as AI-1 is usually a quiet girl who never causes any trouble. Chapter 609. WL. Since Prime Disciple AI says so. Well, forget about this incident. However, make sure it doesn't happen again, or the sect master will be very upset with you. the sect elder said to her. Because Ai-1 was Song Linger's disciple, the other sect elders didn't dare to punish her, as they believed that they would be overstepping their boundaries as a sect elder to discipline the sect master's disciple. Thank you, sect elders. This will not happen again. Ai-1 bowed to them. She then glanced at Yuan for a moment before leaving the music pagoda. Yuan also decided to leave since it would be impossible to look at the music sheets in peace after that little commotion. Once he left the music pagoda, Yuan noticed Ai-1 standing outside, almost like she was waiting for him. I'm sorry for acting up just now, she suddenly said to him. I get agitated when people lie and make bold claims before me. You should know that God descends from heaven isn't something ordinary people can play, and when someone claims they can play such a song to the end, it's only natural to doubt their claims. If I had known that you were the same person from that competition. I'm sorry. Ai-1 apologized to him again. Yuan could tell that she was sincere in her apology, so he didn't hold any hard feelings for her. Don't worry about it. It was just a misunderstanding, he said to her. Thank you. After a moment of silence, she asked him, by the way, what are you doing at our sect? Do you intend on becoming a disciple? Chapter 6:10. I'm sorry about that. That was Disciple Yu, a new disciple that had been recruited by Master shortly after the Zither competition, so she's a little arrogant. And for some reason, she's obsessed with surpassing me. Ai-1 said to Yuan afterward. You can also ignore what she said. What's this lily pavilion? Yuan asked. It's a place where disciples go to battle each other with their instruments. The loser must jump into the cold water that surrounds the place. It's a very popular area for disciples who want to settle disputes. That does sound like a pretty fun place. Yuan smiled. At least they don't have to injure each other, which is the biggest reason why people go there instead of the traditional challenge, where disciples fight each other with weapons. Anyways, let's continue to the Zither Goddess Immortal Cave. About half an hour later, they arrive at this secluded area where many immortal caves existed, and it sort of reminded Yuan of the immortal caves at the Jaded Garden but at a much larger scale. Which one belongs to the Zither Goddess? Yuan asked as he looked around. Do you see that one with a closed entrance in the middle? That's the one. Ai-1 pointed at the immortal cave that had a couple of people standing outside of it. What are they doing? Yuan asked when he saw the scene. They are all trying to open up the immortal cave without breaking the place, she said. You see people like that almost every day. A few minutes later, they climbed the hill and approached the Zither Goddess Immortal Cave. Damn it. This place really doesn't want to open up. If it was so easy to open, it would have opened tens of thousands of years ago. It's true, Master. There are other disciples that witnessed it. Let's go. We're going to the immortal caves. Song Linger said as she stood up. Ai-1 then followed Song Linger back to the immortal caves. Ai-1 hoped that Yuan would have returned by then, but alas, he was still nowhere to be seen. Chapter 6:11. After arriving at the immortal caves, Song Linger asked the disciples there for their story. That person touched the immortal cave and disappeared the next second. It was so sudden. He hasn't returned since then. Song Linger frowned at the situation, and she began looking around the Zither Goddess Immortal Cave, even touching the exact same spot that Yuan had touched, but nothing happened. Oh, I forgot to mention this, but he played a song with the soul-ensnaring zither before touching the immortal cave. Ai-1 suddenly said. Why didn't you tell me this first? Song Linger sighed. Do you know what kind of song he played? No, I have never heard of such a song before. Can you replicate it? Song Linger then asked. Ai-1 didn't immediately respond. She closed her eyes and recalled Yuan's performance and tried to play his song inside her mind, but alas, she was unable to remember the song for some reason, almost like there was an otherworldly power preventing her from doing so. I cannot remember the song. Ai-1 sighed after trying. What? You should be able to memorize a song after hearing it once. Was the song he played really that difficult? Song Linger looked at Ai Wan with a surprised face. Not difficult, it was complex, almost like it was a technique as well as a song. That's the best I can describe it. Ai Wan said. If it were not for his superior strength that allowed him to move in the water without knowing how to swim, he would have never gotten out of the pond and would have drowned to death sooner or later. After getting out of the water, Yuan turned to face the 6 beautiful women that were still bathing inside the water, and all of them had a baffled look on their faces, looking like they were witnessing something that shouldn't be possible. Chapter 6:12. Hello. Sorry for interrupting you all, but can you tell me where we are right now? Yuan asked them in a somewhat dazed voice, as these women were truly breathtakingly beautiful. However, these beautiful fairies remained silent as they continued to glare at him. At first, they were dazed, then they slowly began to realize their situation. Once they fully comprehended the situation, their dazed faces turned into frowns, and their gaze turned bloodthirsty. Yuan swallowed nervously when he saw their unfriendly, even threatening gaze. Unfortunately, before he could speak, one of them shouted, "It's a man. A man has defiled our paradise. Get him." Hearing their words, Yuan subconsciously turned around and began running for some reason. Although he regretted this decision at first, he would quickly realize that it was actually the right choice. He's running. Chase after him. The 6 beauties immediately jumped out of the water, revealing their completely naked bodies, but Yuan was too occupied with running to care. Once they were out of the water, these beauties quickly retrieved their robes to cover their bodies, but they didn't even bother dressing up properly before chasing after Yuan, looking like a group of ladies who just woke up late for work and are currently scrambling to get prepared. Heavens! They are fast. Yuan cried inwardly when he saw them quickly closing in on him even though he started running many seconds ahead of them. And why can't I use chi manipulation in this place? However, that didn't last long, as the cold woman increased the pressure a second later, instantly knocking Yuan unconscious. Chapter 6:13. After knocking Yuan unconscious, the cold woman turned to look at the other 6 beauties and said, 6 spirit kings cannot handle a mere spirit grandmaster, a little boy? You should all be ashamed of yourselves. The 6 beauties lowered their heads in a shameful manner, their faces flushed with redness. We're sorry for being useless, Elder Shui. Quickly return to the sect and tell me everything that occurred just now. The cold woman called Elder Shui used her spiritual energy to pick up Yuan before flying away, disappearing into the distance in just a few moments. The 6 beauties quickly followed Elder Shui's words and returned to the sect that was 100 miles away from their location. When Elder Shui returned to the sect first, she handed the still unconscious Yuan to one of the disciples there and said to her, "Lock him up and interrogate him for his identity when he wakes up." Yes, Elder Shui. After Yuan was carried away, Elder Shui returned to her living quarters to wait for the 6 beauties to return. Once they finally arrived, she said to them, "Tell me everything." The 6 beauties that were standing beside each other began explaining the situation to Elder Shui. We went to the bamboo pond to wash ourselves, but shortly after we entered the water, we heard someone screaming, and it sounded like a man's voice. Once we realized where the sound was coming from, we all looked up, and to our surprise, a person was falling from the sky. After a long moment of silence, Elder Shui turned to look at Yuan with a complicated expression on her face. "I will be back later. Don't touch him or this spatial ring until I return," Elder Shui said to the disciple before disappearing from the place without even touching the spatial ring once, leaving her speechless. Chapter 6:14. What happened? Yuan wondered to himself as he watched Elder Shui leave the scene in a hurry. The disciple was also dumbfounded by the turn of events, and she turned to look at Yuan with a profound expression on her face. Just who is this guy? She wondered to herself. Meanwhile, after leaving the prison area, Elder Shui went to summon other sect elders. About half an hour later, Elder Shui sat in a medium-sized room with a dozen other figures, all females. What happened, Sister Shui? One of them asked after everyone was seated. We have a problem, she responded with a deep frown on her face. The atmosphere there immediately became serious when the others saw Elder Shui's expression, as she's rarely this solemn. First of all, a man had entered the fairy paradise, she continued after a moment of silence. What? A man? How dare this savage beast invade our sacred territory? Doesn't he know that men are not allowed in the fairy paradise, and breaking this rule is punishable with the death sentence? There are always people who want to try their luck. This is the third man to invade our territory in the last 10 years. It's only a man, right? Why are you so serious about it, Sister Shui? Just kill him and toss his body back where it belongs like we always do. Another one said. Elder Shui shook her head and said, that's the problem. This person isn't just an ordinary man. He has a dragon spatial ring with him. Wait. What? A dragon spatial ring? Chapter 6:15. A bottle that seems to contain some sort of blood essence, life-saving treasures, a demon core, and even the 7-colored herb. This man is loaded with treasures. The disciple cried inwardly when she saw the treasures on the floor, feeling a strong urge to take them for herself. Of course, with Elder Shui standing right beside her, she didn't dare to actually act upon her desires. As for Elder Shui, she couldn't care less about the treasures, and the only thing in her sights right now was the golden dragon robe. He not only has a dragon spatial ring, but he also has a golden dragon robe. I will be damned if he's not part of the royal dragon family. Elder Shui sighed inwardly. After seeing the golden dragon robe, Elder Shui was almost convinced that Yuan belonged to the royal dragon family. The only thing that didn't make sense was Yuan's behavior, as he was being oddly quiet and obedient even in such a situation. If he was actually from the royal dragon family, he would have long revealed his identity so that they couldn't just kill him. Maybe he has a reason that forbids him from revealing his identity? Elder Shui wondered to herself. You can put your stuff back inside the storage ring. Elder Shui said to him a moment later. Bring her inside. I want to speak with her personally. The Dragon King commanded. Yes. Please excuse this subject. The guard bowed to the Dragon King before returning to Elder Zhou and the others. The Dragon King wishes to speak with you. Please follow me. Chapter 6:16. Welcome, Elder Zhou, to my royal estate. You claim that someone from my royal family had entered the fairy paradise, is that correct? The Dragon King asked Elder Zhou when she arrived before him. And before you answer my question, you should know that I don't respond to false claims nicely. Elder Zhou coldly sneered and said, and you should know that the fairy paradise doesn't respond well to rule breakers. A man with a dragon spatial ring had invaded our territory, and I am here to verify whether he belongs to your family or not. If he doesn't belong to your family, we will immediately execute him. However, if he does turn out to belong to the royal family, our fairy paradise will demand an explanation and compensation. The Dragon King then spoke. While it is true that only the royal family should have a dragon spatial ring, it is also possible for others to obtain the ring through other means. It's rare for this to happen, but it's not impossible. The Dragon King then turned to look at the guard standing beside him and said, what's the result? I have managed to contact all of the men in the royal dragon family and confirm that none of them have entered the fairy paradise, said the guard. Elder Zhou frowned upon hearing the guard's words. If that was true, that would mean the man with the dragon spatial ring doesn't belong to the royal dragon family. As you heard just now, Elder Zhou, we have accountability for all men in the family, so it is not possible for that intruder to belong to our royal family. That's all I need to hear. Then I will let the others know so that they can go ahead and continue with the execution, said Elder Zhou as she retrieved a communication jade slip. I have arrived, Father. Why have you summoned me? Shen Shi, you are to follow Elder Zhou here to the fairy paradise. There is a person there with the golden dragon robe, and I want you to verify his identity," said the Dragon King, instantly dumbfounding her. Chapter 617. Did you just say the golden dragon robe, father? Shinshur asked him with a dumbfounded look on her face. Yes, I did. The Dragon King nodded with a solemn face. We don't have any dragon emperors in this world, so does this mean that someone from the upper heavens came down here? But why the fairy paradise? Shinshur then asked. I am sending you there to answer that question. Hurry up and get moving. If he's really a dragon emperor, we don't want anything to happen to him. If he's real, you should know what to do. I understand. Shinshur then followed Elder Zhou back to the fairy paradise using some sort of special talisman that teleported them there within seconds. Meanwhile, back at the fairy paradise, Yuan was sitting in the corner of the prison cell while silently pondering to himself if there was anything else he could do to get out of this situation. I just wanted to look at the Zither Goddess Immortal Cave. He sighed inwardly. Eventually, Elder Shui returned to the prison and said to him, Take out your golden dragon robe. I need to verify something. Yuan had no choice but to hand over his golden dragon robe to her. At least she didn't ask for the blood essence. He thought to himself as he handed her the golden dragon robe. And she continued, first and foremost. Are you really a dragon emperor, or from the royal dragon family for that matter? Although you have the dragon spatial ring and even the golden dragon robe, I am still not entirely convinced that you're one. Yuan didn't immediately respond to her question and took his time pondering how he should respond. Chapter 618. Should I tell her the truth? But if they learn that I am not from the royal family? No, I should pretend to be a dragon emperor for my own safety. After pondering for a moment, Yuan has decided to act as though he was from the royal dragon family, as he would be killed if he wasn't. That's right, I am indeed from the royal dragon family, he said to Shinshur in a calm voice. Of course, Shinshur wasn't completely convinced by his words, as there are several questionable points about his claims. First, why has he kept his identity a secret until now? If Head revealed his identity earlier, he wouldn't have been treated so roughly. Secondly, he didn't have concrete proof that he was from a royal family, and they won't be able to verify his identity until they bring him back to their family, where the tools to verify his identity is available. The dragon spatial ring and the golden dragon robe may convince a lot of people, but it won't fool the real royal family. Can you prove it? Shinshur suddenly asked him, still with a smile on her face. And she continued, Don't misunderstand my intentions, Senior Yuan, but I have never seen a dragon emperor before, and I want to know for sure so that you can receive my family's full support. I don't blame you for being skeptical. All right, I will prove it. Yuan said to her before closing his eyes. After a moment of silence, he opened his eyes and activated Dragon Gaze, causing his eyes to glow golden and emit an intimidating aura. Now that I think about it, the dragons at the ancient dragon city didn't show their horns. I wonder if there's a specific reason. Yuan wondered to himself. Chapter 619. After talking to each other for a few minutes, Shinshur stood up and said, Please excuse me for a bit, Senior Yuan. I still need to notify my father of the circumstances so that he can prepare accordingly. He's probably shaking in anxiety right now from waiting. Go ahead. Take your time. Yuan nodded. Shinshur then left the scene and went outside to contact her father using a communication jade slip. Shinshur? What is the news? Is this person really a dragon emperor? Her father immediately began questioning her in an anxious manner. Calm down, father. You'll need all of your breath for this. Shinshur said to him. And she continued, It's true, this person is the real deal, a real dragon emperor. The Dragon King stared at the communication jade slip with a look of disbelief on his face. A real dragon emperor? If this is true, they must protect him at all cost. Tell me everything. The Dragon King said. Yes. Shinshi proceeded to explain everything she heard from Yuan to her father. He accidentally arrived in the fairy paradise and actually belongs to the upper heaven? No wonder why he's already a dragon emperor despite being only a spirit grandmaster. I apologize for disappearing so suddenly yesterday without telling you, Yuan said to her. However, to his surprise, Shinshi didn't appear to care about it. In fact, she was oddly dismissive about it, not even bothering to ask any questions. If is real and these people are not actual NPCs, why don't they question us, players, when we suddenly disappear? Is something preventing her from caring? Yuan wondered to himself as he silently stared at Shinshi. Chapter 620. Let's test this out, Yuan thought to himself. The next second, he logged off the game right in front of Shinshi. Where did he go? Shinshi was baffled by Yuan's sudden disappearance. However, when she tried to think any further about the situation, she suddenly stopped caring for some reason. A moment later, Yuan reappeared before her. Senior? Shinshi looked at him weirdly. What do you think of that? Yuan suddenly asked her. Think of what, senior? Shinshi tilted her head in a puzzled manner. The way I disappeared and reappeared like a ghost. What do you think about it? You disappeared? When? Shinshi asked, dumbfounding Yuan. Just now. Look, I will even do it again. Yuan proceeded to log off and back in for a second time in front of her. However, Shinshi remained nonchalant about it. You really don't see anything wrong with me disappearing and reappearing so randomly? Yuan asked her. But senior, you have been standing there this entire time. Are you playing a joke on me? I'm sorry, but I don't understand it. Shinshi shook her head. Sorry, forget about it. Yuan gave up on asking Shinshi. Elder Shui opened the door and entered the room with Yuan and Shinshi. Chapter 621. That's the Fairy Empress? Yuan thought to himself as they approached the figure sitting all the way at the end of the room, and there was another figure standing beside her, who was wearing a uniform that looked similar to Elder Shui's robes. As for the woman sitting on the throne, she was an extremely beautiful woman with long golden hair and emerald-colored eyes. This junior greets the Fairy Empress. Elder Shui bowed to her. She then turned to bow to the woman standing beside the Fairy Empress. This disciple greets the sect master. Seeing Elder Shui greet them, Yuan also prepared to greet them. However, Shinshi stopped him from greeting them before stepping forward. Fairy Empress. The royal dragon family demands you release the Dragon Emperor as soon as possible. If you keep him detained any longer, we will have no choice but to escalate the situation. Yuan stared at Shinshi with wide eyes. The Fairy Empress should be the most powerful person in this world, yet Shinshi dared to speak to her in such a tone. Either the Dragon Royal family is as powerful as the Fairy Empress, or she's incredibly daring. What is this? If you think a drop of blood will save you, the Fairy Empress suddenly stopped speaking when she took a closer look at the drop of blood in the bottle. Whose blood essence does this belong to? She suddenly shouted in a grim voice, startling everyone there. Why don't you take a guess? I will give you a hint. He's the one who created the royal dragon family. Yuan said with a smile on his face. Chapter 622, Blood Essence of a God. Why you don't mean? Shinshi covered her mouth in shock after hearing Yuan's words. Bullshit. The Fairy Empress suddenly stood up and exclaimed in a somewhat angry manner. There's no way this blood essence belongs to the dragon ancestor. She denied his claims. I don't blame you for not believing me. I mean, this is the dragon ancestor that we're talking about. However, I am not lying to you. If you don't believe me, you can imprison me and wait to find out the truth, though it might be too late then. The Fairy Empress gritted her teeth after hearing Yuan's words. Although she cannot tell whether this blood essence truly belonged to the dragon ancestor or not, She could tell that the blood essence had come from a godlike being due to the unique spiritual energy the blood essence contained. While ordinary cultivators all cultivate the same spiritual energy in the air, once they reach a certain cultivation level, they will need to absorb different types of spiritual energy. For example, a cultivator that has achieved immortality will need to absorb immortal chi in order to continue their progress, and the ordinary spiritual energy in their body will eventually be replaced by immortal chi. Above immortals are godlike beings that can create stars and life with the snap of their finger, and these apex entities will cultivate celestial chi, something that the fairy empress could sense within the blood essence. Therefore, even if this blood essence in her grasp doesn't belong to the dragon ancestor, it doesn't take away from the fact that it came from a godlike being, someone who has reached the peak of cultivation. And if it's true that Yuan has connections to a godlike being, nobody in the fifth heaven can touch him unless they want to die a horrible death. After standing there with a perplexed look on her face, the fairy empress suddenly started laughing like a maniac. Chapter 623. Somewhere in the lower heavens, 3 figures could be seen soaring through the sky at high speed without the assistance of flying treasures. Can either of you feel the young master's presence? It suddenly appeared 3 days ago, but then it disappeared shortly after. A beautiful woman with a lavish figure asked the other 2 figures, who were a little girl and a graceful young lady. Of course, these 3 were Yuan's companions that had gone on a journey without him for the last few months. I cannot feel Brother Yuan's presence, Xiao Hua said. Me neither. Lan Yingying shook her head. And here I thought the young master has finally returned to us. Feng Yuxiang released a deep sigh. Anyways, this is where the young master's presence disappeared from. It turned out to be the Heavenly Melody Academy. Feng Yuxiang said as they hovered above the Heavenly Melody Academy. What should we do now? Lan Yingying asked. In response to Lan Yingying's question, Xiao Hua began flying towards the Heavenly Melody Academy, before descending into the inner court. Xiao Hua's sudden appearance shocked the disciples there, as only spirit grandmasters have the capability to fly without the assistance of flying treasures or flying swords. And when Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying also descended onto the ground from the sky, the disciples' shock turned into fear. Why did 3 experts suddenly appear in the middle of their sect? However, before any disciple could approach them, Song Linger noticed their presence and appeared before them. If they learn the truth, I might as well return to the fairy paradise since it would be safer there. Yuan cried inwardly as he greeted the Shen family. Chapter 624. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome, but I'd prefer it if you guys acted more casual and informal when around me. Yuan said to them after seeing them treat him as though he was some kind of emperor. My name is Yuan, and you can call me as such. The people there looked at each other with doubtful gazes. Can they really address a dragon emperor so casually? They won't receive divine punishment from their ancestor for doing so. If you say so, Yuan, the Dragon King said. Anyways, let us introduce ourselves. The royal family then began introducing themselves starting from the Dragon King. Once everyone there was done, the Dragon King invited Yuan inside the building. By any chance, are you hungry? We are preparing for a feast right now. The Dragon King asked him sometime later after they were all sitting down. I am a little hungry. Yuan nodded. In the meantime, if there's anything we can help you with, I am trying to find a way back to my own world, but am not sure how I even got to this place in the first place. Can you describe to me what had happened before you came here? The Dragon King asked. Yuan proceeded to recall everything that had happened. As expected of a dragon emperor. Even his food consumption is top tier. Look at how quickly he's cleaning up the plates. He's treating the food as though they are air. Chapter 625. After entering the Zither Goddess Immortal Cave, Xiao Hua and the others immediately began looking around. However, they quickly realized that besides the teleport formation, there was essentially nothing else inside the Immortal Cave. There's nothing in here. Song Linger was left speechless by this discovery, as she has always believed that there were treasures inside the immortal cave. Meanwhile, Feng Yuxiang took her time analyzing the formation on the ground despite not being an expert. I'm no formation expert, but by the looks of it, this formation is a one-way teleport formation, and judging by the complexity of the design, it's a fairly powerful one. Can you tell where it took Brother Yuan? Xiao Hua asked her. Unfortunately, only the creator of this formation would have this information. Feng Yuxiang shook her head. Then is there any way to activate it? Lan Yingying asked. You can normally activate a teleport formation by pouring enough spiritual energy inside it, but there are also formations that only activate under certain circumstances. We can try injecting our spiritual energy into this formation, but I don't have any hopes it'll do anything. Stand back. Xiao Hua said as she began pouring her spiritual energy into the formation. However, no matter how much spiritual energy she fed the formation, it remained inactive. You said the young master played some sort of song with the zither before he was teleported away? Feng Yuxiang turned to ask Song Linger, who nodded. What? Song Linger's eyes widened with shock by this unexpected news. Chapter 626. After returning to the lower heavens, Yuan immediately began making his way back to the Heavenly Melody Academy. When he got close enough, Feng Yuxiang's voice suddenly resounded in his head. Young master. Are you okay? Feng. Yuan was delighted to hear her voice after so long. Where are you right now? Feng Yuxiang then asked. I am currently heading to the Heavenly Melody Academy. Is that so? Then we will wait for you here. You're at the Heavenly Melody Academy right now? Why? Yuan asked. We sensed your presence here, but it disappeared before we could arrive. Ah. I will explain everything to you later once I return. Okay. See you later, young master. Feng Yuxiang then explained to Xiao Hua and the others that Yuan was heading back to the Heavenly Melody Academy. Is everything okay with Yuan? Song Linger asked. Yes, he sounded fine. Feng Yuxiang nodded. Thank the heavens. If anything had happened to him. Song Linger released a long sigh of relief after learning that Yuan was not harmed. He then turned to look at the guards and commanded, find out what happened to the Dragon Emperor. I don't believe that he'd leave without telling us. Something must have happened to him and I want to know what. Chapter 627. After commanding the guards to look for Yuan, the Dragon King gathered his family to notify them of the situation. What? Senior Yuan disappeared from his room? Shenshi exclaimed in a shocked voice. And she continued, are you sure he didn't leave his room to go somewhere? I have confirmed this with the guards, he hasn't left his room since he entered it, and the windows were still locked when I went to check on him. The Dragon King shook his head. Furthermore, the guards had sensed a disturbance inside his room before he disappeared, so there's a good chance that something had forced him to disappear. Why would anyone want to kidnap the Dragon Emperor? Someone there asked. Maybe it's the fairy paradise. What if they released him so that they cannot be held accountable if anything happens to him afterward? Another person there speculated. That makes sense. How despicable. It must be the fairy paradise. I found it suspicious how they allowed the Dragon Emperor to leave so easily. The majority of the royal family believed that the fairy paradise was responsible for Yuan's disappearance at this point. Calm down, everyone. The Dragon King eventually spoke. Although we are not always on good terms, I know the Fairy Empress very well. She is not the type to do something like this, at least I hope that's the case. Anyways, I will speak with the Fairy Empress later. Until then, you guys try to look for the Dragon Emperor. Do you still want me to do it? Yuan asked. Of course. I will gather the disciples again. We will be ready for your performance tomorrow. Song Linger eagerly nodded. Great, Yuan said. Chapter 628. After letting Yuan know that she will gather the disciples tomorrow for his performance, Song Linger left the place. We have some time until tomorrow, so why don't you tell me a little about your adventure? Yuan then asked the three ladies in the room. It honestly wasn't that exciting, as we'd spent most of our time wandering and killing magical beasts so that Lan Yingyin could consume them. Feng Yuxiang said. That's fine. Even if it's boring, I want to hear all of it. Yuan said with a calm smile on his face. Lan Yingyin nodded, and she proceeded to recall their adventure with Yuan, which took up the rest of the day. I'm glad that nobody was hurt, Yuan said to them after hearing their story, as they'd encountered a few dangerous-sounding situations. Of course, even though it sounded like they were in danger, the truth was anything but that, as they were all peak experts of this world, and with a spirit king like Xiao Hua with them, it was impossible to get hurt even if they want to get hurt. What about you, young master? That is if you don't mind sharing. Feng Yuxiang asked him out of curiosity. Well, I had to fight a demon and was nearly killed, Yuan said with a bittersweet smile on his face. What? Feng Yuxiang exclaimed in a shocked voice. Demon? A real demon? Even Lan Yingyin was startled by the news. Yes, a real demon. But how is that possible? I thought they only existed in the mystic realm. Feng Yuxiang mumbled in a low voice. It was a sealed demon that had broken out of its seal after being sealed for many years, he sighed. Plus 28, 000 stats. Chapter 629. Yuan emerged from the bathtub after absorbing all of the medicine, which helped him break through to the next level of Spirit Grandmaster. Congratulations on your breakthrough, young master. Feng Yuxiang said to him when she noticed him coming out of the bathroom. It's all thanks to your treasures. Yuan smiled. And he continued, I don't really know how to repay you. You don't have to repay me, young master. I am your servant, thus everything that belongs to me also belongs to you. I am not that shameless to accept free things without returning a favor. Furthermore, it's all precious treasures that would definitely cost a fortune if you were to sell them. I cannot accept that much for free. However, the only thing I can really give you right now is my blood. Yuan sighed. Speaking of my blood. I haven't given you any of my blood for some time now. Do you want to drink some right now? Yuan then asked her after realizing this. Feng Yuxiang shook her head with a bittersweet smile. Is there something wrong? You are normally very excited for my blood. Yuan asked her. There's nothing wrong, young master. It's just that. I am afraid that you might cure my curse too quickly, forcing me to return to the upper heavens. She finally decided to reveal her reason for her hesitation. Isn't that what you wanted? To cure the curse as soon as possible? Yuan raised his eyebrows in a confused manner. Indeed, that's what I wanted at first, but after spending some time with you, I realized that I wanted to stay by your side for a little longer. If I consume your blood and the curse breaks, my cultivation will no longer be suppressed, so I will have to return to the upper heavens, and I don't want that to happen. It doesn't matter. After all, whatever you play will turn out to be flawless, she smiled. Chapter 630. Yuan took a moment to ponder what songs he wanted to play. Senior song, I can play multiple songs, right? Of course. You can play as many songs as you'd like, she immediately responded. Yuan nodded and took a seat on the platform before retrieving his soul-ensnaring zither. A couple of disciples there recognized the soul-ensnaring zither, as they'd tried to play it before. Is that the real soul-ensnaring zither? The one that used to be owned by the zither goddess? It's probably just a replica, right? No, I heard that someone had managed to obtain it after successfully playing it. As the disciples murmured to each other, Yuan pulled on the string of the zither and began his first of many songs that would be played on that day. When the disciples heard the music note, they immediately closed their mouths and focused on Yuan, who was calmly sitting on the platform. The first song that Yuan decided to play was something Fei Yuyan had taught him. The second song was something from his own world. The third and fourth song was something he learned from the 9th floor of the music pagoda. The fifth and sixth song was also from the music pagoda, and it was on the 10th floor. Welcome back, Yuan. Long Yijuan and the other sect elders greeted him with broad smiles on their faces. Chapter 631. Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Yuan greeted Long Yijuan and the other sect elders. It's only been a few months. This amount of time is nothing in the cultivation world. Elder Xian said with a smile on his face. Madam Feng. Seniors. Welcome to the Dragon Essence Temple. Long Yijuan then greeted Feng Yuxiang and the others. I heard you're going to challenge the stairway to heaven soon, is that right? You grow up so quickly. Elder Shan approached him until she was standing directly behind him. She then wrapped her arms around him and embraced him in a playful manner. I swear it wasn't long ago that you were a spirit warrior. Your talents are screwing with my sense of time, she sighed. Although the others would normally call out her shamelessness, the sect elders remained silent this time. Once she had enough, Elder Shan released Yuan and asked him, Are you going to challenge the stairway to heaven right after leaving this place? I still have one place to visit after this, but once that is done, I will challenge the stairway, he said. How long do you plan on staying here? Elder Xian asked him. I probably won't stay too long since I only have to pick up someone before I am ready to leave. Who are you picking up? Long Yijuan raised his brows. Minli, he calmly said. Minli from the Min family? Why are you picking her up? Long Yijuan continued to ask. Seeing the painful smile on Fei Yuan's face, Yuan decided to not continue his sentence and merely nodded in silence. Chapter 632. Hey, Yuan, before you leave, can we play the zither again for a bit? Fei Yuan suddenly asked him after a moment of awkward silence. Of course. He immediately agreed. Let's do it at my backyard like we used to. Okay. Fei Yuan turned to look at Elder Shan and said, I'm sorry, Master, but I will end my training early today. Do as you please. Elder Shan nodded. Yuan then followed Fei Yuan back to her living quarters. Once they were in the backyard, they sat down beside each other with their zither out. The soul ensnaring zither? What happened to the divine grade zither you obtained at the competition? Fei Yuan asked him. Oh, that thing? I sold it. Yuan casually said. Why you sold a divine grade treasure? Fei Yuan's eyes widened with disbelief. I didn't need it since I already have the soul ensnaring zither, and I needed the money back then. Yuan shrugged. But the soul ensnaring zither isn't really a treasure. While that is true, it still performs the same if not a little better than the divine grade zither. In the end, it's not like I will be using it as a weapon, so it really doesn't matter to me. I guess so, however, if one looked at the direction of their gazes, that reason would become obvious. Of course, they were flustered after seeing the beauties with Yuan. Chapter 633. Hello, I am here to see Minli. I was told by the Dragon Essence Temple that she had returned home not long ago. Yuan said to the guards while they were still dazed by the beauties around him. Why, young lady Min? What business do you have with her? I am here to fulfill a promise I made to her. I'm sorry, but the Min family is not accepting any visitors at this moment, as they are currently preparing for the young lattice marriage. The guard then said, taking Yuan by surprise. What? Marriage? Minli is getting married? Yes, the Min family suddenly announced her marriage with Gu Tao from the Gu family, their third eldest son. The Gu family. Yuan recalled when someone from the Gu family tried to recruit him to their family when he was still a disciple of the Dragon Essence Temple, and he mentioned that the Gu family was one of the 7 legacy families. As for Minli marrying this Gu Tao, it was obviously something that her family decided for her. Yuan could still remember Min Li pleading with him to join her family so that they wouldn't do something like this to her. Looks like I had made her wait too long. Yuan sighed inwardly. However, knowing that Min Li was most likely forced into this marriage by her family, Yuan was more inclined to meet with her. Once the guard left, he immediately ran to the Min family to notify them of the situation. What? Madame Fong from the Golden Phoenix Bazaar is here? Why? The head of the Min family, Min Ida, asked the guard. Chapter 634. Apparently, her young master is here to meet with young lady Min Li. The guard responded to Min Yid's question. Young master? Min Ida suddenly burst out laughing after hearing the guard's words. Are you sure she's the real Madame Fong? First of all, Madame Fong left the Golden Phoenix Bazaar a while ago and hasn't been seen since then. Why would she suddenly show up here for Min Li? And her young master? I know Madame Fong very well. There's no way that she'd lower herself for another individual. She's a fake. A fake, I tell you. Min Ida continued laughing. Then what about the royal guest medallion? The guard asked. Did anyone verify if it was real or fake? And no. It would have been disrespectful to Madame Fong, as verifying the medallion is akin to doubting her credibility. The guard shook his head. Just kick them out. Although he had a bad feeling about Min Yid's orders, the guard didn't dare to disobey him. As you command. Please excuse this subordinate. The guard quickly returned to Yuan and the others to notify them of Min Yid's response. I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave this place now. What? Yuan looked at him with wide eyes. The disciple Yuan? Is that really you? Min Li's eyes widened with shock the instant she saw his handsome face, and she immediately wondered if she had accidentally dozed off into dreamland, hence the current situation that shouldn't be possible. Chapter 635. I must be dreaming. There's no way he'd be here. Min Li released a low laugh before shaking her head and returning to staring outside the window. Who's dreaming? Yuan asked her. After a moment of silence, Min Li turned to look at him again, her eyes wider than before. Are you real? Am I not asleep? Are you really disciple Yuan? Min Li asked for confirmation. Why are you still calling me disciple Yuan? I am no longer a disciple of the Dragon Essence Temple. Just call me Yuan, disciple Min, Yuan said with a gentle smile on his face. And he continued, also, I am here to fulfill my promise. Min Li's body visibly trembled when she heard his words. Meanwhile, Min Ida stared at Yuan from the side with a look of disbelief on his face. Why Yuan? He can't be. Impossible. Min Ida refused to believe that he was the same Yuan who dominated the mystic realm, the same Yuan that they have been desperately trying to recruit. Why is he here? I thought Min Li failed to recruit him. Min Ida cried inwardly. He was clearly Gu Tao, Min Li's fiancé. Min Ida took a deep breath before responding in a solemn voice. Min Li is not here. She has abandoned the Min family. What? The Gu family stared at him with baffled expressions, seemingly unable to comprehend the situation at first, and the place turned dead silent very quickly. Chapter 636. Let me repeat myself just in case you missed it. Min Ida cleared his throat and continued. Min Li has left the Min family, so she is no longer part of our family. I'm sorry, but we will have to cancel the wedding between Min Li and Gu Tao, he said, speaking in a clearer tone this time. Once they snapped out of their daze, Gu Tao screamed loudly, bullshit. I am not going to cancel the wedding. Where did she go? I will bring her back myself if I have to. My son is right, Min Ida. We have already expended too many resources on this wedding, and news of the wedding has already spread everywhere. If we cancel it now, both of our families be laughingstocks for the rest of the century. Do you really want that to happen? Minita merely sighed at their words and said, I understand your feelings and anger, but there is truly nothing I can do in this situation. As for bringing her back, that's also not possible. Nonsense. Tell me where she is and I will bring her back even if it's by force. Gu Tao shouted. Minita glared at Gu Tao for a moment before responding in a low voice, Stairway to Heaven. If you really want to bring her back, you can find her at the Stairway to Heaven. However, don't say I didn't warn you. You really don't want to offend them. Them? Who are you talking about? And why on earth would she be going to the Stairway to Heaven? She's only a spirit warrior. The head of the Gu family frowned. However, Minita turned around and began walking away. I wish you the best of luck. Once again, I apologize for this inconvenience. This isn't over yet, Minita. The Gu family left the place shortly after, and they were still fuming in anger after they left. Are we going to go to the Stairway to Heaven now? Gu Tao asked his father. Obviously. We cannot let this marriage end in such a ridiculous manner. We are bringing her back even if we have to drag her back. Thus, the Gu family began making their way to the Stairway to Heaven instead of going home, still unaware of the full situation. Meanwhile, after leaving the Min family, Minli asked Yuan, are we heading straight to the Stairway to Heaven right now? Actually, there's still one more place I want to visit before leaving the lower heavens, he said. Chapter 637. Lord Luo. The hero has returned. I repeat, the hero has returned. A guard came rushing into Lord Luo's room without knocking. Hero? What nonsense are you talking about? We are having an important discussion right now. Scram. Lord Luo got angry when his important meeting was interrupted, not to mention the grave situation that has been stressing him lately. Sorry for interrupting your meeting, but I heard you need some help, so I came. Yuan entered the room a few moments later. However, because of how drastically different his appearance was compared to his last visit, especially his longer hair, Lord Luo didn't recognize Yuan at first. Why you are? Once Lord Luo got a good look at Yuan's handsome face, his body immediately began shivering from sheer excitement, and he even began crying. Daoist Yuan. Is that really you, Daoist Yuan? Lord Luo couldn't control his emotions and spoke as though he was before his savior. You have changed, grown so much in just a few months. I almost didn't recognize you. It's really me, Yuan confirmed with a gentle nod. Then he continued, can you tell me what's troubling you in the city? If there's anything I can do to help, please take a seat first. Lord Luo suddenly stopped talking when he finally noticed the four beauties standing behind Yuan. Chapter 638. Unfortunately, there really isn't much you can do against the blood sect. Even if you kill their sect master, another one will eventually rise to that spot. You can maybe try killing all of the higher-ups in the blood sect, but that is easier said than done. There's a reason they have existed for thousands of years despite countless experts trying to wipe them out. Feng Yuxiang said to him. Yuan pondered about Feng Yuxiang's words. If he cannot do anything against the blood sect, what should he do about Pang City's situation? It was not as though he could give up and abandon them. After thinking for a moment, Yuan turned to look at Lord Luo and said, do you mind if I stay here for a few days? I will try to come up with a solution, and just in case they attack. Of course. You can stay here for as long as you want. Lord Luo immediately said. Suddenly, one of the people there said, I'm sorry, but what can you do against the blood sect? The blood sect has multiple spirit masters, and their sect master is also a spirit grandmaster. Not even an entire sect can stop them, much less a couple of young people. I say we evacuate the city and seek protection from one of the bigger sects such as the Heaven and Earth Palace or the Grand Sword Mountain. Everyone there turned to look at Yuan for a response. Even Lord Luo, who had immense faith in him, cannot imagine a spirit warrior defending against the blood sect. Of course, He was not aware that Yuan had become a spirit grandmaster during the few months he was gone. It's just a few spirit masters. My young master can handle even a spirit lord, much less a spirit grandmaster. Foam Yuxiang suddenly sneered. What? A spirit lord? Yuan then released his spirit grandmaster aura and said, I alone can defend the city from the blood sect. SS spirit grandmaster? How is that possible? You were only a spirit warrior before you left a few months ago. Lord Luo exclaimed. What? A spirit warrior? The others were also shocked. What? The sisters' eyes widened with shock after learning this information. They then got on their knees and apologized for their behavior. Meanwhile, Yuan and Xiaohua arrived at the Flying Sword sect, at least what it once used to be. Chapter 639. This is the Flying Sword sect. Yuan stood before where the sect should have been located with a clear look of disbelief on his face. However, the Flying Sword sect was nowhere to be seen. Instead, destroyed buildings and dried blood scattered the place. The scenery is what it would look like after a long and brutal war had just finished. Yuan mumbled in a low voice. Thousands of lives perished here for what? What does the blood sect achieve by doing this horrible thing? It won't bring back their sect master's dead son. Unfortunately, this is the harsh reality of the cultivation world, the real cultivation world, where people do unreasonable things, and there's nothing we can do about it. Xiaohua sighed. After a moment of silence, Yuan said, let's take a look around this place. Are you sure, Brother Yuan? There will be a lot of blood and corpses. It won't be a pretty sight. Yuan nodded, even so, I want to see it. They proceeded to walk around the unrecognizable and destroyed Flying Sword sect, passing by many corpses and separated body parts. Yuan stopped walking in front of 3 large stone tablets, which were the only things not completely destroyed there. He looked at the stone tablet in the middle, and on the very top, there was a name he was familiar with. Mo Zhou. So you have managed to become rank 1, huh? Congratulations. Yuan congratulated him in a dispirited voice. What do you think you're doing? Our sect master is a spirit grandmaster. Hell kill you as easy as breathing. The blood sect disciples began shivering uncontrollably as they watched Yuan slowly approach them with a sadistic grin on his face. As a killer, you should know very well what I am about to do, right? Yuan responded, his aura gushing with killing intent. Chapter 640. Stop. Let us go. Our blood sect will hunt you and your 9 generations down if you harm us. The blood sect disciples shouted. Yuan stopped walking once he was in front of these people, and he took a long and deep breath. A strong smell of blood and corpses immediately assaulted his nose. He released a long sigh before speaking, I don't blame you for killing people. It's the nature of cultivators, after all. However, if you're going to kill someone, you better have a damn good reason. After this sentence, Yuan suddenly lifted the Empyrean Overlord and pointed it at one of the blood sect disciples. And killing these disciples for your own entertainment is not a good reason. This is why I despise evil sections. You guys are a bunch of boring individuals. The blood sect disciple being pointed at suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his throat, but he was too scared of Yuan's cold gaze to move, not to mention the pressure restricting his body, so he wasn't sure what was causing this pain. However, the other blood sect disciples saw it clearly. Yuan was slowly pushing the tip of his sword into their fellow disciple's throat, penetrating the skin on his neck with no resistance like it was tofu. Stop. Are you really not afraid of the blood sect? Our fellow disciples will definitely avenge us and hunt you down. They began shouting. Hunt me? Ha ha ha. Yuan moved the sword an inch forward, causing blood to flow from the disciple's neck. He then spoke while continuing to push the sword deeper into the disciple's throat. How will the blood sect learn of this if I kill all of you? How will you tell them? As a ghost? By the time Yuan finished his sentence, the sword was already halfway through the disciple's neck. Of course, the disciple was already dead at this stage, but Yuan didn't retrieve his sword and continued to push his sword forward until the disciple's head was completely separated from his body. I guess you can say that. Yuan smiled calmly. Chapter 641. Why you will regret this. You will now be hunted by the entire blood sect. The blood sect disciple disappeared from the scene quickly afterward. Yuan turned to look at the people that had been treasure hunting before getting caught by the blood sect and said to them, "If you don't want to die like them, get out of this place." Why yes. Thank you, senior. They quickly left the scene as well. Once Yuan was alone with Xiao Hua, the place became dead silent. Yuan closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, his eyes were no longer vicious but innocent, and his entire demeanor changed. Yuan looked at the corpses in front of him, as well as the decapitated body with a perplexing emotion in his heart. After standing there in silence for a few moments, he turned around and said to Xiao Hua, "Let's go back for now." Xiao Hua quietly nodded and followed him. The entire journey back to Pang City was a quiet one with neither of them starting a conversation. While they walked, Yuan pondered inwardly. That person was neither the Demon Sealing Clan's founder nor the other two, so who was he? Could it be another one of my reincarnations? No. I have seen him before. Yuan suddenly recalled the bloody dream he had when he got his faction symbol after joining the Celestial Overlords. Could it be him? His demeanor and aura felt just like that person. Just who is he? Now he wondered if he was a murderer in one of his past life, as he was completely tranquil when killing the blood sect disciples, almost like it was natural for him to have blood on his hands. Chapter 642. After eating to their full, Yuan and the others returned to the Luo family's manor. "Young master, do you want to temper your body tonight as well?" Feng Yuxiang asked him after they returned. "That would be ideal." Yuan nodded. "Just let me know whenever you're ready." Okay. Yuan logged off shortly after to eat dinner, and he would explain to them the situation at the table. "Because of this evil sect called the Blood Sect that might attack this city, I will be staying in this city for a few more days before we challenge the stairway to heaven." Sounds troublesome. What do evil sects even do, anyway? Chu Liuxiang asked. I don't know the purpose of their existence. All I know is that they're filled with unreasonable people who kill innocent people for their own entertainment, and they cultivate forbidden techniques that make them go crazy. Once dinner was finished, Meishio said, "Yuan, the Cultivators Association contacted me this afternoon. They said we can visit them whenever because they have finished scouting for our faction's headquarters." Really? We can visit them tomorrow since I have 3 days before I fight the Blood Sect. Alright, I will let them know tomorrow morning. Chapter 643. Hey, Yuan. It's been a while. How have y'all been? Wang Ming greeted them with the others behind him. Hello, everyone. Everything's been great on our side. What about you guys? It was very boring since we couldn't really train in the hotel we were staying at. We've been waiting for our own headquarters so that we can train all we want. Yuan smiled and said, "Then let's see what the Cultivators Association has in store for us." Upon arriving at the Cultivators Association, they could see Chairman Li standing by the entrance, clearly waiting for their arrival. Good morning, everyone. Our Cultivators Association has managed to find 5 headquarters that fit your requirements, and they're all in this city. Well, go look at each of them whenever you're ready. We can go look at them right now, Yuan said. Very well. Please follow me. We have prepared transportation for you all. Yuan and the others followed Chairman Li to the parking lot, where a long limousine was waiting, and it had more than enough room to fit all 10 of them. Once they were seated, Chairman Li got into the driver's seat and personally managed the car, acting as their personal chauffeur despite his status within the Cultivators Association. As they began moving, Chairman Li said, "There should a yellow envelope on the table." You can find information and images of the headquarters we've scouted. Take a look at it if you'd like. Yuan opened the yellow envelope and took out the papers inside. There's only information on 4 headquarters here. I thought we had 5. Yuan asked after realizing this. 3 hours later, the car stopped in front of a small but tall mountain that was surrounded by a thick wall. As for the location of the mountain itself, they were in a very secluded area with no other buildings around, almost like they were in the wilderness. We have arrived, Chairman Li said to them. Chapter 644. Wow, the dragon in its name is really fitting. Wang Ming mumbled to himself as he looked through the car window. The mountain itself wasn't anything too special, but the road that spirals around the mountain had the appearance of a dragon, making it seem as though there was a dragon coiling around the mountain. While they admired the mountain, Chairman Li pulled up to the gates and spoke to the guards there. I'm Chairman Li from the Cultivators Association, and I have with me the Demon's Sealing faction. We're here as scheduled. Once the guards verified his identity, they opened the gates to allow them inside. Take your time. Thank you. The moment they entered the gates, it felt as though they had entered another world, as the spiritual energy suddenly spiked up. Yuan was pleasantly surprised by this. Although it wasn't as powerful as the spiritual energy in the immortal caves, they were only at the entrance of the mountain, the lowest level. He can only imagine how much stronger the spiritual energy gets as they go higher into the mountain. Where will our headquarters be located? Shi Lang asked. The middle levels. I tried getting you guys a headquarters at the upper levels, but you don't have even credibility. Don't be discouraged, though, as you can always move to the upper levels once you're ready. Furthermore, getting a building in the middle level is already an amazing feat for a new faction with only 10 members. Chairman Li said. Everyone there turned to look at Yuan. Surely, he's the reason they were allowed to even step foot inside the Dragon's Spiral Mountain. Sometime later, Chairman Li stopped the car somewhere in the middle level of the Dragon's Spiral Mountain. Chapter 645. So yeah, we need $3.5 billion for our faction's headquarters. Wang Ming called his parents to let them know of the situation. $3.5 billion? Are you buying a house on the moon or something? Why the heck is it so expensive? No, it's a house in the Dragon's Spiral Mountain. What? The Dragon's Spiral Mountain? You know of it? Of course. It's one of the most suitable places in this world for cultivators. If it were not for our family size that consists of 6 different families, we would have moved there. I see. Anyways, I will give you Yuan's bank information. You can send it to him whenever you're ready. You sound very confident that we'll give you the money. Wang Ming's father said. You're not. I will let Yuan know right now if that's the case. Wait. I was only joking. Let me speak with the others first, but I'm sure we'll be able to help him. Even if he needs twice that amount, we'll be willing to help our savior. His father said. After what happened at the Jaded Garden, the people there now address Yuan as their savior. Wang Ming hung up the phone shortly after and said to Yuan, our families should be sending the money to you as soon as possible. Thank you. He nodded. Sometime later, they returned to the Cultivators Association. As for Yuan, he went in to temper his body again with Lan Yingying. The following morning, they loaded the small luggage into the limousine while Meishio effortlessly carried the piano into the truck rented by Sebastian, shocking the pedestrians with her absurd strength. Once they were ready to move, they began making their way to the Dragon's Spiral Mountain. Chapter 646. A few hours after leaving their apartment, Yuan and the others arrived at the gates of the Dragon's Spiral Mountain, and to their surprise, Wang Ming and the others were all waiting outside with their luggage. Why are you all waiting out here? Yuan asked them. We couldn't get inside because we don't have any identification even though we were here yesterday. Wang Ming sighed. Oh, right. Chairman Li only gave me one identification for now. I really hope you guys didn't stay here overnight. No, we only got here about an hour ago, so it wasn't that bad. Yuan nodded, and he went to the guards to show them his identification. Welcome to the Dragon Spiral Mountain, young Master Yuan. The guards greeted him. Where can I get identifications for my companions so they can enter the place without me? Yuan asked them. The manager will handle all of that once she visits you later today, said the guards. I understand. Once the gates were opened, Yuan and the others made their way to their new home in the middle of the mountain. Yuan, you can go ahead and pick your room first. We'll decide afterward. Wang Ming said to him. Well, they're all pretty much the same, so it doesn't really matter to me. How about this one? It's the largest room in this building, and it's also the closest to the staircase. Shi Lang suggested. Sure. What about you two? Yuan asked Meishio and Chu Liuxiang. I understand. Thank you. Yuan said as he accepted the badges. Any more questions for me before I leave? Chapter 647. I actually do have one. What kind of person is the Lord of the Dragon Spiral Mountain? Yuan asked her. The Lord, huh? Why do you want to know about him? The manager held a mysterious smile on her face. Out of curiosity, I guess, Yuan said. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you anything about the Lord. However, if you live here for long enough, you might get to see him. Is that so? Anyways, if you have questions about the mountain, you can contact me at any time of the day. Here's my business card. The manager handed her card to them. Jenny Zhang. Yuan read the name on the business card. You can just call me Jenny. After shaking hands with each other, Manager Jenny left the scene. Since this finished earlier than expected, I'll go spar with Li Jingsky now, Yuan said as he stood up. What are you going to do now? I'm not sure, honestly. In fact, I'm wondering what my purpose is now. Am I still your caretaker? It really doesn't feel like it since I have been spending most of my time cultivating. Meishio asked him. Yuan pondered for a moment before speaking. We're no longer in a small home with just the two of us. There's Lulu and the others, not to mention the faction. Furthermore, I will be spending most of my time in now, so I won't need any attention. Instead of remaining as my caretaker, why don't you do something different? Like being the manager of the faction? Chapter 648. What? Yuan? What is he doing in the mountain? Even if Chu Liuxiang is with him, he shouldn't be able to enter the mountain without the Lord's permission. Chu Shijian, Chu Luxiang's foster father, said in a surprised voice. He actually moved into the mountain, and he's currently living in the middle level of the Dragon Spiral Mountain, Sebastian explained to him. He moved into the mountain? How is that even possible? Although I have no doubt that he'll be able to live here in the future, he shouldn't have the qualifications to enter this place yet. I was also surprised when I heard it, but the Lord approved it, and he moved in just today. Chu Shijian closed his eyes to ponder. What do you think of him? This Yuan. The woman sitting beside Chu Shijian suddenly asked. He's a very talented individual. Perhaps even more talented than our top geniuses. Although I haven't spent much time with him or seen his full potential, I believe he's someone worthy of our attention. Sebastian said. I haven't seen you praise someone like this before, Sebastian. He must have really impressed you. The woman smiled. He nodded and said, while I didn't witness it for myself, it is true that had defeated the demon that was supposedly as strong as a cultivator at the peak spirit grandmaster. I have also watched him practice with the 6 spiritual family's geniuses. He's the real deal. If you never fought one yourself, how do you know that demons are really that powerful? If you ask me, I think they exaggerated the demon's power. Exaggerated, huh? I really can't tell you since I wasn't there to witness it. Sebastian shook his head. Why did you let him go alone? What if something happens to him? Feng Yuxiang asked Xiaohua afterward. This is Brother Yuan's decision. We can only believe in him, she calmly responded. Chapter 649. Where is Daoist Yuan? Lord Luo asked Xiaohua and the others after he left, unaware of the situation. The young master left not long ago to deal with the blood sect, said Feng Yuxiang. Lord Luo looked at the three of them. If they're all here, this meant that Yuan had gone to deal with the blood sect by himself. Seeing Lord Luo's expression, Lan Yingying said, Yuan will be fine. Don't underestimate him. I understand. Meanwhile, at the Flying Sword sect, Yuan stood before the 3 stone tablets with a tranquil expression on his face. However, inside his mind, he was trying to communicate with somebody. Are you going to show up today and take control of my body like last time? You like killing people, right? He would rather let the handsome man take control of his body so that he doesn't have to personally kill the blood sect, and he would feel less guilt that way. Unfortunately, the handsome man would not respond no matter how much Yuan tried to summon him. Yuan sighed. And for the next 2 hours, he would patiently wait for the blood sect to show up at the 3 stone tablets. Chapter 650. Whoosh. Ah. Bang. Ag. Blood and body parts scattered all over the place as Yuan continued to swing the Empyrean overlord without mercy. Hundreds of disciples from the blood sect were slaughtered at the hands of Yuan's, yet their sect master, Lord Blood, remained hovering in the sky without moving a single finger, silently watching his disciples getting slaughtered in the bulk with a cold gaze. Of course, he never really expected the disciples that were mostly spirit apprentices and spirit warriors to capture Yuan, who was a spirit grandmaster. Even if he had tens of thousands of disciples, it would not be enough for a spirit grandmaster. His only motive was to tire out Yuan with his disciples so that he would have a better time taking him down later. In other words, he was sacrificing his own disciples for himself. As for the disciples, they had no choice but to fight Yuan, even if they might die. After all, if they don't listen to Lord Blood, they will definitely die at the hands of their own sect master. Get him. He won't be able to defeat all of us. For Lord Blood. The disciples continued to rush at Yuan despite his overwhelming presence. Heavenly Domain. A profound aura suddenly appeared around Yuan, instantly pressuring before flattening the disciples there into meat paste. Blood splattered all over Yuan's body and face, but when the blood touched his golden dragon robes, they would slide right off, almost as though it was coated in a thick layer of liquid-resistant substance. However, the blood on his face remained, and some of it even got into his eyes, making it seem as though he was crying blood. Ha-ah. Yuan swung again, and another dozen people died. Ah. What exactly am I doing? I can't feel anything. Yuan wondered inwardly. He has subconsciously swung the Empyrean overlord in every direction. There's something hitting my face. Is it raining? Why am I doing this again? You're doing this to protect the innocent. Just like you always have. Another voice suddenly resounded in his head. Who are you? Me? You should already know the answer to that question. The voice responded. And it continued, the sensation of their flesh tearing apart. The smell of blood. The profound atmosphere. Their blood-curdling screams. Remember it. Remember it all. Flashbacks began occurring inside Yuan's head, but he still managed to fight the blood sect. After an unknown amount of time have passed, Yuan snapped out of his flashbacks, finding himself in the middle of a bloodbath. Yuan then explained the situation to them and how he fought against the entire blood sect by himself. Chapter 651. Young Master. Don't blame yourself. You did nothing wrong by killing those evil cultivators. Feng Yuxiang spoke a moment after Yuan explained his battle with the blood sect, as there was a clear sense of guilt within his eyes as he explained how he killed thousands of disciples from the blood sect. However, Yuan shook his head and sighed in a low voice, "You're wrong. I am neither feeling guilt nor self-blame because I killed those evil cultivators. I am worried because I don't feel any sympathy even after killing so many people. Even now, I cannot feel anything. Is there something wrong with me? That's completely normal, young master. It just means your consciousness doesn't find anything wrong with killing some evildoers. I can assure you that there's nothing wrong with you. You're just growing up, as a cultivator. That's it. Growing up, huh?" Yuan sighed. Sometime later, Yuan said to Lord Luo, "Pang City should be safe now that the blood sect is gone." Thank you, Daoist Yuan. Once again, you have saved our city." Lord Luo stood up and bowed to him. "Unfortunately, our family doesn't have anything else to give you, as I had already given you our most valuable treasure." "The Starry Abyss, huh?" Yuan suddenly retrieved the Starry Abyss. "I still haven't thanked you for giving me this treasure. It has been really useful to me ever since then. This treasure is more than enough to compensate for everything I have done for the city, as well as what I will do for it in the future. Of course, I hope nothing bad happens to this place ever again." "Thank you, Daoist Yuan." After talking with each other for a little more, Yuan returned to his own room. Sometime later, Yuan stood up and said to her, "Anyways, you should get ready if you aren't already. We'll be challenging the stairway to heaven in a few days." Chapter 652. It's been a while, Meisho. Feng Yuxiang greeted her with a calm smile on her face. "Hello, Feng. How have you been?" "The same as usual. What about you? Anything new since our last meeting?" "A lot has happened since then." Meisho sighed. "Want to talk to me about it while we go pick up the young master's other friend?" Feng Yuxiang asked as she picked up Meisho with qi manifestation. "Just a little." Meisho nodded. Meanwhile, news of what happened to the blood sect spread like wildfire throughout the entire lower heavens, and within a single day, nearly everybody has heard about it. "Have you heard? Someone named Yuan has managed to destroy the blood sect." "I have heard about it, but is it even possible to completely destroy an evil sect? Even if you killed a few hundred disciples from the blood sect, they won't be destroyed unless you exterminate all of their disciples. They're like cockroaches. That's the thing. He didn't just kill a few hundred disciples, he killed thousands of them. Of course, this includes their sect master and all of the high-ranking disciples that Lord Blood brought with him. It'll be hard for them to rebuild after this even if they're the blood sect. And they still lost to a single man? Heavens, how powerful is this Yuan person? And how come I haven't heard of him until today? I believe there was also a disciple with the same name in the Dragon Essence Temple." "Oh. I heard about him. He's the one who carried their sect to first place in the mystic realm, right?" Thus, Yuan would go on and tell them about his history with the Yu family and how they abandoned him when he became crippled, leaving them speechless. Chapter 653. Ha 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 ha. I am sorry for laughing, but I really cannot help it after listening to your story. How stupid can the Yu family be? Wang Ming laughed out loud. Abandoning their own son because he became a cripple? It's so ridiculous it's funny. The fact that they abandoned the one and only player Yuan without even being aware of it. Ahem. Li Jinxi suddenly cleared her throat, causing Wang Ming to stop laughing. She then turned to look at Yuan with a serious face. "Yuan, do you want to get revenge on the Yu family? Our families can destroy them with ease, after all." "Revenge? It's fine." "Why? Don't you feel angry? Any normal person would detest their family if they were abandoned." "I never said I wasn't angry at them. In fact, my anger grows every time I am reminded of them," he spoke in a calm voice. "Then why don't you want revenge?" "I want revenge, but I want to do it my own way, by myself. I understand. That's even better. Li Jinsi nodded with a smile. After breakfast, Yuan returned to his own room with Chu Liuxiang. I thought you didn't want revenge against your family for abandoning you, brother Yuan. Chu Liuxiang said with a cheeky smile on her face. Well, things change. Yuan smiled back. Anyways, have you met Feng Feng yet? He asked a moment later. That makes sense. I guess. Chapter 654. A few hours later, Feng Yuxiang stopped moving above a city in the eastern continent. We have arrived, she said to the other two girls. I see you, Ro. She's over there. Meishio pointed at the small figure standing outside the city gates. Of course, she was surrounded by young men, just like when Yuan first found her. Young fairy, why are you standing out here alone? Why don't you come with me and I will show you all around the city and some more? No, you should follow me. My father is the, Why you're floating? The people there were shocked when Yu suddenly started levitating off the ground. She's not floating. She's flying. A spirit grandmaster. They then watched as Yu flew towards Feng Yuxiang and the others in the sky. It's been a while, Yu. I hope I didn't interrupt your fun down there. Feng Yuxiang said to her with a smile. You came just at the right time, Feng Feng. Then let's return to the young master's side, shall we? We're already behind schedule. To think Yu had managed to hide this fact for so many years. It was truly a shock to Meishio. Wait. So you're telling me that you didn't always know about Brother Yuan's adoption? Chu Liuxiang finally spoke after comprehending the situation. Yu shook her head, no. Actually. Perhaps I knew, but forgot about it since Brother Yuan always treated me like a real sister, and I was very young back then. Maybe I didn't want to believe it and tricked myself into thinking that he was my real brother. Even I don't know anymore. Chapter 655. Sorry for keeping this a secret from you too, Meishio. Yu sighed a moment later. No, I should be the one apologizing. There have been many moments where I pondered about telling you. But seeing you so happy to be his little sister, I didn't want to ruin it for you or him by tearing apart your status as brother and sister. Meishio shook her head. I understand. After all, that's also why I didn't reveal the fact that I knew about it. I didn't want to ruin our relationship as siblings. Yu smiled. She then turned to look at Chu Liuxiang and continued, Can you tell me about Brother Yuan's life in the orphanage? I have always been curious, but I was also too scared to ask about it since that would give everything away. Of course. It would be my pleasure. To Yu's surprise, Chu Liuxiang didn't object to her request, as she was certain that Chu Liuxiang would rather keep everything a secret just to tease her. But in return, you'll tell me about Brother Yuan's life in the Yu family. The good memories. I already know all of the bad ones, after all. Chu Liuxiang added. And for the rest of the journey, Chu Liuxiang and Yu would share their memories with Yuan to each other, quickly becoming friends. What a surprise! This left Meishio profoundly surprised, as she did not expect the two of them would suddenly become friends. In fact, she had expected some sort of rivalry between them, especially since Yu is very protective when it comes to Yuan being with other women. A few hours later, they arrived at Pang City, and Feng Yuxiang descended directly in front of the Luo family's manor. Welcome back, seniors. The guards bowed to them. You sound like an old man who's devoted all his time to work. Chu Liuxiang suddenly said. Well, I cannot deny that. Yu shrugged. But that's not the only reason why I want to stay down here. Let me explain. Yu continued. Chapter 656. The other reason why I don't want to ascend has connections to the first reason. Since I don't have time to play, my progression will barely move, so even if I ascend, I will only be a hindrance to you all. Do you understand? It's like sending a low-level player to a place filled with high-level monsters. I won't be able to do anything by myself if you leave my side even for a moment, brother. And I do not expect you to wait for me, as that would be a waste of time. Yuro sighed. But I can help you progress faster with treasures. You won't be a burden to me. Yuan said. Don't even bother trying to convince me, brother. I have already decided to stay down here. Furthermore, I won't be alone since I will have Xia Jingyi by my side. After a moment of silence, Yuan sighed, all right. Fine. I won't try to convince you anymore. However, just know that once I leave, it will be incredibly hard for us to meet in this world again since I cannot come down to the lower heavens whenever I please. It's not like we cannot see each other in the other world. Yuro smiled. Anyways, I have to wake up early tomorrow for training, so I won't be able to stay here for much longer. Let's talk to each other until I have to leave, okay? Yuan nodded. I want to hear more about your faction. Of course. It's a really great place. Everyone there is very nice to each other, and it feels like ID suddenly gained a new family. Although training is hard at times, my cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds since I started training there. Yuro proceeded to recall her last couple of weeks as a member of the Eternal Lotuses. She told Yuan her daily routines, her training schedules, and even some of Xia Jingyi's experiences there. It sounds like a great place. I should visit there one day. Yuan smiled. How about your faction, brother? You created one, right? Wang Ming casually shrugged. Are you kidding me? We just ate, so I am a little sleepy. If you want to fight, we can do it tomorrow. After saying that, he went into his room and locked it, leaving Wang Bingbing speechless. Chapter 657. After returning to his room, Yuan went to his closet and retrieved a basket of medicine. Are those the medicine you'd acquired from the Jaded Garden? Do you plan on tempering your body tonight? Chu Liuxiang asked him when she saw the basket. Yes. Do you want to join me? Yuan asked her. Is that even a question? Of course, I want to join you. Chu Liuxiang wasted no time removing her clothes, stripping herself naked before Yuan could even prepare the bath. I haven't even prepared the bath. You should put your clothes back on unless you want to catch a cold. Yuan said to her. Chu Liuxiang chuckled. I haven't caught a cold ever since I became a cultivator. I don't think cultivators can even catch colds. Anyways, I already took my clothes off. I will just wait under the blankets until you're done. You can join me at any time. Chu Liuxiang said as she entered the bed. Yuan couldn't help but smile at Chu Luxiang's behavior that reminded him of Elder Shan from the Dragon Essence Temple, and they both give off similar vibes. Half an hour later, once the bathtub was prepared, Yuan entered the green water with Chu Liuxiang. Have you ever tempered your body before? Yuan asked her. I have, she calmly replied. Really? Where does the Chu family obtain their medicine? Chapter 658. How do you like the scenery? Does it make your heart pound with excitement? The handsome man suddenly asked him without looking away from the red sky. Yuan coldly snorted. Why are you showing up now? You didn't show up when I asked you to fight the blood sect. The handsome man turned to look at him with red eyes and showed a grim smile. Are you still angry that I killed those ants for you? You must have wanted to kill them yourself, but you didn't have the courage, so I had to give you a slight push. Yuan frowned at his words. Angry? Of course, I am angry. However, it's not because you killed those people. I am angry because you possessed my body without my permission. First it was the divine paragon, now it's you. Yuan expressed his concerns regarding their possession. And to his surprise, the handsome man actually began laughing. Possessed? You think we possessed you? That is incorrect. We're not ghosts. Then how do you explain what happened? It's simple. You awakened your memories and began acting as though you were that person. You were the one who called upon us, not the other way around. The divine paragon took over your body because you wanted to defeat the demon. I took over your body because you wanted to kill those ants. It's as simple as that. And no way, it's the truth. We may have lived different lives, but in the end, we're all the same person. Don't be angry at me, us. It just means you're angry at yourself. After a moment of silence, Yuan spoke in a questioning tone, and who are you supposed to be? The handsome man suddenly stood up and turned to face him. Follow me, brother Yuan. Xiao Hua will take you there, she said with an eager smile. Chapter 659. Where the fuck is that bitch, Minli? We have been waiting here for almost a week. She should be here by now. Gu Tao shouted in an angry voice when he lost his patience. Do you think we were fooled by the Min family? He then asked his father, who was sitting beside him inside the carriage. That's not possible. He wouldn't lie about something like this. It would only damage his family's reputation, and you know how much we value our face. Furthermore, this is Minli that we're talking about. They wouldn't sacrifice their family's reputation for her. Why do you think they sold her to us in the first place? That makes sense. However, that doesn't change the fact that Minli isn't here. We came here immediately after leaving the Min family, so there's no way that Wed missed her. Gu Tao said. That's also not possible. I had spoken to the people here. None of them have seen Minli, and she's one eye-catching girl. Then how long are we going to wait? We cannot stay here forever, not to mention that wedding that is supposed to be in 3 days. Gu Tao sighed out loud. There's nothing we can do but wait. It was at this moment the Gu family noticed a group of individuals approaching their direction, and all but one of them were kingdom-toppling beauties. However, Gu Tao only had one person in his eyes, a young lady with a familiar face. Wow, so that is the stairway to heaven, huh? It's much grander than I'd anticipated. Yuan mumbled in awe as he gazed upon the massive staircase that hovered in the air not far in the distance. There were only a total of 9 steps on this staircase, but it was so massive that it filled the sky and seemed like it was created for giants, and there was a beautiful golden door at the end of the 9th step. I have never seen such a big staircase before. It's almost as though it was created for giants. Chu Liuxiang mumbled in a dazed voice. Speaking of giants, do they exist in the cultivation world? Yuan asked. Chapter 660. Spirit Grandmaster. She's a Spirit Grandmaster. The middle-aged man cried inwardly, shocked by Feng Yuxiang's cultivation base. If you dare move, I will kill you. Feng Yuxiang said to them with an overbearing aura around her. However, Gu Tao's father was also a Spirit Grandmaster, so he didn't immediately back down. Who are you? He asked her with a slight frown. Feng Yuxiang. What? Madame Feng from the Golden Phoenix Bazaar? Although he has never personally gone to her store before, his Gu family has purchased many treasures from her place before. Impossible. What are you doing in this place? My business is none of your business. However, your business on the other hand. Feng Yuxiang narrowed her eyes. How dare you treat my young master in such a manner? Courting death. Feng Yuxiang began approaching Gu Tao while emitting strong killing intent. Father. Help me. Kill this bitch for me. Gu Tao immediately hid behind his father's back. Although he could sense Feng Yuxiang's threatening aura, he doesn't actually know Feng Yuxiang's identity, nor was he aware of her cultivation base. There is nothing to talk about. You lost that chance when you threatened to take Min Li away by force. Patriarch Gu gritted his teeth in anger, but he eventually gave up and said, Fine. I will give them to you. Chapter 661. Here are my spatial rings and storage pouches. Let my son go now. Patriarch Gu gritted his teeth and handed over his treasures to Yuan. Meanwhile, Feng Yuxiang also collected Gu Tao's spatial rings and storage pouches. Here you go, senior fairy. Gu Tao handed all of his possession to Feng Yuxiang without any hesitation. In his mind, nothing in this world was more valuable than his cultivation that took years of effort to build. After taking his treasures, Feng Yuxiang returned to Yuan's side and gave them to him. Thank you, Feng. See, can we leave now? Patriarch Gu asked him, seemingly in a hurry to leave. Yes, you can. However, before Yuan could finish his sentence, Xiaohua stepped forward and said, Wait. What's the matter? Yuan looked at her. She pointed at Patriarch Gu and spoke in a calm voice. He still has a spatial ring hidden on his body. Patriarch Gu's entire body trembled when he heard Xiaohua's claims. Chapter 662. We have arrived at the stairway to heaven. Feng Yuxiang said as they approached the massive staircase not far away from them. It's quite empty here. Yuan had expected there to be more people in this place for some reason, but that didn't seem to be the case, as there were only a dozen people there, including an old man sitting behind a desk right beside the staircase. Young master, speak with that old man whenever you're ready to challenge the stairway to heaven. I will be cheering for you from inside your body since I don't need to participate in the trials. Feng Yuxiang said to him before transforming into a glowing orb and entering his body. Xiaohua is confident that Brother Yuan will succeed. Xiaohua also entered his body a moment later. Only Lan Yingying remained, as she didn't come from the upper heavens like the other two. Where did they go? Chu Liuxiang asked in a baffled voice, as this was her first time witnessing such a thing. They're resting inside my body right now, Yuan said. What? How does that even work? Can I enter your body too? She then asked. They can do that because they are my servants. Yuan smiled. Anyways, let's go speak with that old man. The old man sitting behind the desk looked at them and said, Are you going to challenge the stairway to heaven? I am. Yuan nodded. First time? Yes. Yuan, I will help them climb the staircase. You need to focus on yourself. Lan Yingying said to him. Okay. Thank you. After putting down Meishio and Chu Liuxiang, Yuan proceeded to make his way towards the second step that was about 200 meters away. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.